Chapter 232. The Crimson Shura was still an expert, so he had some real skill. He walked into the crowd of monsters and used taunt to successfully aggro the hidden snake. He then activated charge and ran back to where he came from. The aggro caused a chain reaction, causing all the hidden snakes to chase after him. They also activated stealth and disappeared from everyone's sight. As soon as the hidden snakes disappeared, Blood Red War Flag panicked. The target is gone. What do we do? After the target disappeared, there was no way to mark it. Even if they set up a formation, they couldn't even touch the target's shadow. How could they even surround it? I have my ways. Wuji smiled, still calm and collected. Since Wuji had set up this formation, he must have calculated this and naturally had a way to deal with it. Soon, the Scarlet Azura rushed into the middle of the formation. Seeing this, Wuji calmly took out a small cloth bag from his bag and threw it forward. A white mist floated over, and the ground seemed to be dyed with a layer of frost. All the hidden snakes could be seen clearly. What is this? The Blood Alliance members were shocked and asked curiously. Chuanjin's specialty, lime powder. It counters all kinds of stealth. Wuji introduced. Counters stealth? So that's how it's used. The Blood Alliance members were enlightened. Everyone present was an expert and usually went to the consignment shop to buy things, so they had seen lime powder in the consignment shop. However, their only impression of lime powder was that it was expensive. A trash material with no attributes actually dared to sell for 50 silver. As long as one wasn't an idiot, no one would buy it. They didn't expect that this trash-looking material was actually a powerful anti-stealth weapon. How annoying the thief profession was could be seen from everyone's attitude towards stealth monsters. So when everyone knew the use of lime powder, they were all shocked. At this time, the hidden snakes had already passed the 4 thieves and rushed to Blood Red War Flag and Wang Yu's side. Wuji said faintly, "Deactivate the array." When the Great Blood Wall and the Birds of Paradise heard this, they immediately turned around and blocked the entrance of the formation. Wang Yu and the Blood Red War Flag stepped in separately, gathering the rear of the formation. The melee classes gathered together, blocking the mages and priests outside of the formation. At the same time, 4 thieves appeared and attacked Hidden Snake. Then Wuji shouted, "Whirlwind Slash." After receiving the order, the Blood Shura roared, turned around, and activated Whirlwind Slash in the middle of the formation. How big could a circle formed by 10 people be? In such a small circle, no one could escape. The Bloody Shura's Whirlwind Slash had hit almost all the monsters, pulling their aggro. The 3 priests outside the formation began to heal at the same time. The Crimson Azura's body was covered in holy light. Under the siege of the snakes, it still stood strong. It slashed left and right, earning enough aggro. The thieves and mages were free to deal damage, so they didn't have to worry about an OT. Under the siege of the crowd, all the hidden snakes were destroyed in less than a few rounds. After successfully wiping out all the hidden snakes, Blood Red War Flag had a better understanding of how terrifying Wuji was. These were all monsters that could go into stealth. If Blood Red War Flag were to command them, they would definitely let the tanks pull the aggro. Against these monsters that could ambush, if they let the tanks use taunt to pull the aggro would quickly disperse. Once the aggro was dispersed, the safety of the other classes would decrease, and the pressure on the priests would be unprecedented. At that time, let alone 3 priests, even 5 priests could not guarantee that the team would not suffer any casualties. However, Wuji used a damage output class like the Bloody Shura to pull the aggro. Then, he lured the monsters into a prearranged encirclement. Then he let the Bloody Shura release the most lethal Whirlwind Slash, firmly pulling the aggro. 1 priest couldn't save 2 people, but 3 priests should be able to pull 1. Thinking of this, Blood Red War Flag looked at Wuji in amazement. If this guy really wanted to develop Chuanjin into a big guild, the number 1 guild in the country would have been replaced long ago. Blood Red War Flag was still amazed by Wuji's commanding skills. Suddenly, there was a change in the cave. Boom! Boom! The entire cave seemed to be in an earthquake. Gravel fell from the ceiling, and the ground trembled. the stone walls of the cave began to stretch and deform. The originally narrow cave quickly widened into a large hall. The stone pillars grew rapidly like bamboo shoots after the rain. In just a short while, they had reached the top of the cave. The light inside the cave was much brighter than before. After the cutscene animation ended, the gloomy hurricane cave completely changed. The scene that looked like a sewer turned into a palace. However, the palace was filled with stone pillars that were as thick as an arm. It was as if they had entered a forest. At the very end of the palace, there was a luxurious stone throne. On the throne was a strange creature with a human head and a snake's body. In the game, there were plenty of strange creatures. This one was considered normal. At least she looked good. System notification. You have activated the dungeon quest Cursed Snake. Kill Snake Queen Angela 0 to 1. Reward, 40% completion. So, this is the legendary Angela. Everyone used their detection spells on her. Snake Queen Angela, level 35, Gold Boss, Elite, HP, 400000 MP, 300000 skills. Bone Corroding Poison Cloud, Kiss of Nightmare, Death Gaze, Stone Forest Guard status, Magic Scale Armor. Immune to magic attacks. Completely immune to non-sharp weapons. This boss's stats are a bit low. Wuji was surprised when he saw Angela's stats. Angela's skills were quite average, but her status was a bit disgusting. Magic immunity was fine. There were only 2 spellcasters in the team. One more or one less didn't really matter. Immunity to non-sharp weapons was a pain in the ass. In any online game, weapons were divided into 2 categories: sharp weapons and blunt weapons. For example, blades, swords, bows, and arrows were all sharp weapons. War hammers, magic staffs, and the like were blunt weapons. Since there was a Grandmaster of Combat in Rebirth, there was the almost nonsensical weapon called fist gloves. In the classification of weapons, fist gloves were also classified as blunt weapons. In this team, the damage output that everyone relied on the most was not the archer or warrior, but the Grandmaster of Combat. Although Grandmasters of Combat could use weapons of all professions, at the end of the day, the main weapon of the Grandmaster of Combat was still the fist gloves. Wang Yu sometimes used a staff, but like the fist gloves, they were both blunt weapons. If that's the case, doesn't that mean Wang Yu is just a decoration? Chapter 233. In Rebirth, weapons were divided into 2 types, attack and effect. The former represented damage, while the latter represented special effects. For example, if knee strike was ineffective, Wang Yu could at least forcefully grab and break super armor. As long as the skill was effective, Wang Yu would be able to crowd control the target. As for the damage, the others could do it. However, Angela was completely ineffective against non-sharp blades. In other words, not only was Wang Yu's attack ineffective, he could not even use his skills. What was more annoying was that the shield of a shield warrior was also a non-sharp blade weapon. If the shield was ineffective, there would be no frontliners in the team. This was a boss that could use poison. At this thought, everyone except Wang Yu could not help but feel a headache. Wang Yu did not feel anything because he was a noob in the game. He did not understand the classification of non-sharp weapons and the meaning of complete immunity. Why do you think there are these stone pillars in the palace? Wang Yu knocked on the stone pillar beside him and asked Wuji curiously. F***CK, don't touch it. Wuji was shocked and hurriedly pulled Wang Yu away. Wuji had tried this dungeon in normal mode during the closed beta. He knew that these stone pillars were actually seals inserted into Angela's body. Once they got close, it was equivalent to walking into Angela's aggro range. As expected, when Wang Yu knocked on the stone pillar, Angela immediately climbed up from the throne. You mortals, lackeys of the Holy Court, are you the ones slaughtering my people? Angela's voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly heard by everyone. Everyone's bodies trembled, and a buff appeared on their bodies. Voice of the Devil's Snake. Movement speed reduced by 10%, lasts for 10 minutes. Everyone was shocked. This boss actually had a full-screen crowd control skill. Fortunately, the speed reduction was not that great. Wang Yu said unhappily My light faction reputation minus 200. What does that have to do with me? He's the lackey. As he said this, Wang Yu pointed at Blood Red War Flag. In the job description, the Punisher was a violent organization of the Holy Court. They were responsible for killing people to keep their mouths shut. Blood Red War Flag could not have been more suitable to be called a lackey. Blood Red War Flag looked aggrieved and looked at Wuji. Priests were also a profession in the Holy Court. Light priests were nicknamed the spokesperson of God. Wuji was furious. Why the F***CK are you looking at me? While they were talking, Angela had already passed through the stone forest and swam towards them while wagging her tail. Wang Yu was the closest to the front, and the monster was pulled by Wang Yu, so Angela was the first to attack Wang Yu. Angela's weapon was a longbow. With the sound of the bowstring, 3 jade-green arrows shot towards Wang Yu's position. Wang Yu wasn't afraid of Aunt Ariel, even though she had 4 arms and 4 legs, let alone Angela. Wang Yu waved his hand and slapped away the arrow. He activated Collapsing Fist and rushed to the front of Angela, smashing his fist towards Angela's face. Pong! With a muffled sound, Wang Yu's hand went limp. It was as if his fist had hit cotton, completely ineffective. Huh? A question mark appeared on Wang Yu's head. Everyone was shocked. Iron Ox doesn't look at the stats of the boss. Wuji facepalmed and sighed. This idiot is a gamer. He doesn't understand what Angela's status means. Gamer. The Blood Red Alliance members broke out in a cold sweat. This guy who could even torture the boss and make everyone in Yu Huicheng tremble in fear was actually a gamer. Who would believe this? Wang Yu's attack didn't work, so he punched again. Angela squinted her eyes and kissed Wang Yu. Wang Yu wanted to dodge, but his stats were limited and he wasn't strong enough. Angela directly kissed his face. F***CK. Everyone revealed an envious expression at the same time. The perverted bird of paradise said righteously, "Shouldn't the tankers be the ones to tank the monsters?" At this moment, a red heart symbol appeared on top of Wang Yu's head. Everyone could tell that he had been charmed. Pa! After a soft sound, Wang Yu's HP dropped by half. A cold wind blew from the back of everyone's head to their heels. Go and help, Wuji ordered. The 3 warriors charged forward. Seeing this, Angela put away her bow and waved her hands. A cloud of poison mist shrouded over and trapped the 3 warriors inside. Angela's poison mist was quite strong. It reduced HP by a percentage and completely ignored defense and HP. Wang Yu and the others could clearly see that the 3 warriors' HP dropped rapidly. The priests couldn't revive them at all. 5 seconds later, 2 shield bearers and 1 weapon bearer turned into white light. At this moment, the 4 bandits also sneaked over. If one's proficiency in stealth was not high enough, it would be useless against monsters that were too much higher than one's level. Angela was a gold tier boss in manual mode, so she had a high insight into traps and stealth. Therefore, when the 4 bandits went behind Angela, she turned around. Swoosh! A white light flashed, and the 4 bandits turned into stone statues. Then, they shattered on the ground and died an extremely tragic death. However, their deaths were not without value. At least Wang Yu took this opportunity to flash to Blood Red War Flag's side. F***CK. Blood Red War Flag slapped its thigh and shouted. There were a total of 14 people in the team, and half of them died in an instant. The people who died were all classes that used sharp weapons. Apart from them, the only one left in the team who could effectively attack Angela was Blood Red War Flag. How could Blood Red War Flag not be depressed? This was a gold tier boss. No matter how high the damage output of a punishment paladin was, Blood Red War Flag was not stupid enough to take on a boss alone. After Angela killed the 4 bandits, she passed by Wang Yu and rushed to the back. She casually covered the 2 priests at the back with a cloud of poison. Even the mages beside the priests were covered. The 4 of them did not even make a sound before they were poisoned into white light. Dogs of the Holy Court, all of you must die. Ha ha ha. Angela laughed like a crazy woman. She turned around and swam in the direction of Wang Yu's group. F***CK. Why didn't she react when I hit her? Did the system make a mistake? Wang Yu asked in confusion. Wuji said, Fists are useless against her. Sticks won't work either. Why? Wang Yu did not understand. Because that's how the system was set up. Wang Yu was speechless. Wu Ji understood Wang Yu the best. The world was big, but the system was the biggest. The system's setting blocked Wang Yu's 100,000 questions. What do we do now? Later, when Blood Red War Flag is entangled with the boss, we quickly leave the battle and then leave the dungeon. Wang Yu was stunned for a moment and said, "We received money. Isn't it bad to do this? As long as we can live, Blood Red War Flag won't say anything. In the game, they could still revive if they died. Naturally, it was better to have one less death." I can't do it. Wang Yu hesitated and said seriously. Chapter 234. Wang Yu was a martial artist and had a sense of responsibility in his bones. Therefore, even after mixing around with the Quanjin sect for so long, Wang Yu still hadn't learned the decisiveness to abandon his teammates at a critical moment. Ever since Wang Yu joined Xuanjin had made many strategic changes due to danger. Although Chun Xiang was always the one to cover their retreat, Wang Yu persisted in fighting until Chun Xiang was safe. He was the last to leave. It was the same this time. Blood Red War Flag was his teammate. Moreover, they had paid him. They were his customers. It was not Wang Yu's style to abandon his customers or teammates when they were in danger. "Are you stupid?" Wu Ji said in disdain. "You don't understand. You guys retreat first. I'll hold them off." Wang Yu said calmly. F***CK. Wu Ji said, "Forget it. I won't retreat either." "Why?" "Because I'm stupid," Wu Ji said with a dark face. Angela was getting closer and closer to the three of them. Seeing that she was about to attack Blood Red War Flag, Wang Yu snorted and went forward. "Don't be rash. This boss is perfect." Wu Ji said that he had to think of a way to get rid of the boss and escape together. Then he saw Wang Yu flip his hand, and a two-handed greatsword appeared in his hand. Wu Ji saw the greatsword in Wang Yu's hand and was surprised. Then he said, "This weapon looks familiar. It's from the same batch as Third Bow's. I made them both." Wang Yu said and showed Wu Ji the attributes of Mihir's wrath. "Not bad, young man." Wu Ji looked at the attributes of the weapon with envy. Wang Yu smiled and shouted at Blood Red War Flag, "Old Blood, charge!" "Where?" When Blood Red War Flag saw that Angela was right in front of them, they started to panic. This boss had killed 11 people without even taking a breather, whatever. Before Wang Yu could finish his sentence, Blood Red War Flag charged forward. At the same time, a cloud of poisonous mist enveloped the place where the Blood Red War Flag had just stood. Angela did not manage to hit the Blood Red War Flag. She turned around and charged at Wang Yu with her claws and fangs bared. At that moment, Wang Yu had already arrived in front of Angela. Angela pouted and kissed Wang Yu. Wang Yu had already expected this move from Angela. He jumped back lightly to put some distance between them. Then he gripped his sword tightly with both hands and thrust it into Angela's face. 1789 Angela's head fell back, and she screamed. Her eyes began to emit a gray light. Wang Yu's footwork blurred as he twisted and turned, dodging Angela's death stare. He turned behind Angela and swung his sword at the back of Angela's neck. 2452 Angela wasn't a strength-type boss. After being slashed by Wang Yu, she moved nearly half a meter away. Two-handed swords were very rare in the Chinese kung fu system. The specific moves had only appeared in recent times, so ancient families like the Wang family didn't deliberately collect them. Wang Yu didn't know how to use them either. There were many two-handed sword techniques in the kung fu system. Wang Yu simply used a sword instead of sword. His saber technique was broad, heavy, and powerful. Although it was a little awkward to use the two-handed sword in the game, it had its own style. As Angela's skills were basically frontal attacks, the sword technique that Wang Yu was using was called backhand sword. Backhand sword was a typical skill-based assassination sword technique. Every move was close to the back of the opponent and aimed at the back of the neck. This sword technique required a high level of movement. In traditional weapons, it belonged to the dual-wielding style. However, this was in the game. Wang Yu had the teleportation skill and had also learned the Yang family's 7 steps of Astral Dipper. 7 steps of astral dipper was the general outline of Chinese Kung Fu's movement technique. Because of this, Wang Yu was able to perform this set of saber techniques with ease. Wang Yu's back-to-back knife, with a two-handed knife, had both the agility of a two-handed knife and the sturdiness of a single knife. Wang Yu's movements were also extremely accurate. Almost every knife cut Angela to the ground. Angela was an intelligent boss. Speed was not her strong point. Therefore, every time Angela wanted to attack Wang Yu would turn his feet slightly and go behind Angela. Then, he would slash the back of Angela's neck. It was as if he was attached to a bone and could not be removed. Angela could not do anything about it and could only scream in anger. Blood-red war flag, who was waiting for death with its eyes closed, was not too surprised when it saw this scene. That was because it was almost numb to Wang Yu's strength. It was just strange. Why did Wang Yu not only have a stick on him, but also a knife? Old cow, I knew you were AF Astra's king genius. Wu Ji was originally in despair. He never expected Wang Yu's strength to be so overpowered that he could turn a dead end into a live one. At this moment, Wu Ji saw Wang Yu sticking to Angela's back and slashing. His thoughts immediately went back to the time in the beginner's village. Such a terrifying guy had killed the Silver Moon Wolf King alone. Even a method was similar. It was just that back then he used his fists. Now, he was using a two-handed sword. Should we help old cow? Blood-red war flag saw that Wang Yu was farming the boss alone. They did not know if it was because they were itching to get a share of the loot, or because they felt embarrassed to just watch. Wu Ji said, help my ass. If you escape the battle, quickly find a place to hide. In this kind of battle, we'll be in trouble if we go. Angela was already anxious because of Wang Yu. She threw out bone-corroding poison mist and death gaze like they were free. Bone-corroding poison mist was an AoE skill. Death gaze could also impregnate anyone it stared at. Wang Yu had martial arts and could dodge the skills. Blood-red war flag was a clumsy knight. If he went up, he would just be looking for trouble. Wang Yu did not dare to underestimate Angela's skills. From start to finish, Wang Yu kept his eyes on Angela, not daring to relax at all. When Angela raised her arm, it meant that she was going to use poison. When she shook her head, it meant that she was going to stare. When he found the time to release the skill, Wang Yu would dodge the skill's range before Angela used it, and then counterattack. Lunge up to bind one's head chop, back chop, neck. Wang Yu's expression was serious. He was meticulous as he slashed at Angela's back. Blood-red war flag followed Wu Ji and hid behind the stone pillar. It stared at Wang Yu's sword, slashing horizontally and vertically. It was mesmerized by the sight. It had never thought that slashing people could be so entertaining. This is an AI boss. Blood-red war flag sighed. Wu Ji was disdainful. What AI? If she really is a high AI, she should have thrown a poison mist behind her. Who knows? We might already be out of the dungeon. Blood-red war flag hurriedly covered Wu Ji's mouth. Keep your voice down. These bosses have the ability to learn. Chapter 235. Seeing Angela's action, Wu Ji smiled, revealing an expression as if his plan had succeeded. Angela was shocked when she saw Wu Ji smile. She suddenly reacted, but it was too late. Wang Yu held his sword with both hands and had already run in front of Angela. He raised his sword from bottom to top and lifted Angela's chin. Wang Yu's two-handed sword was extremely powerful. As a sorcerer, Angela had the size of a normal person. She was directly knocked into the air by Wang Yu's sword. In online games, there are many techniques for combos. There are also many techniques for blocking and recovering. If one wanted Wu Ji to achieve the desired combo effect, the best way was to control the target. Knocking someone into the air was undoubtedly the most perfect prelude to a combo. When the target was in the air, it was difficult to complete most of the moves. Hence, it was not easy to recover. Hence, as long as the rhythm was well controlled, one would be able to achieve a terrifying burst of power after being knocked into the air. In a holographic mode, the effects of attacks were more in line with the rules of reality. Everyone had the assistance of the system when playing games, but the system would not go overboard. For example, the blind skill did not have to be thrown at the target's eyes. It only had to be thrown at the target's face. If it was thrown at the back of the target's head, it would be too unscientific. It was the same for the knock-up effect. In Rebirth, to achieve the knock-up effect, one had to attack the target from the front. Angela's skills were all direct attacks. Death Gaze was still fine, as it was an instant damage output skill. It did not have a continuous effect. One just had to dodge or interrupt it. However, this Poison Mist skill had a continuous effect for 5 seconds. In this way, Wang Yu had no way of attacking Angela head-on. Wu Ji's eyes were very sharp. He saw that Wang Yu wanted to attack head-on a few times, but was forced back by Angela. Hence, he immediately guessed what Wang Yu was thinking and said that. After all, it was the system's AI. Compared to real humans, its techniques might be far superior, but its adaptability would always be slightly inferior. Wang Yu's attack was successful, and Angela was lifted into the air. She immediately switched to the 9 rings saber technique, which was mainly used for close-range assassination, and changed to the 9 ring saber technique. Meteor Lightning 8, Storm Strophyllum, Fragmentum, Swallow the Moon, and Swallow the Sun. The long sword in Wang Yu's hand turned into a knife and continuously slashed at Angela's body. When Angela's levitation effect ended and she landed on the ground, Wang Yu used somersault and flipped her up again. Poor Angela. One wrong step, and she would regret it for the rest of her life. Wang Yu did not give Angela any chance to fight back. 1785-1459-2451. A series of numbers appeared above Angela's head. Angela's health bar dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wang Yu's 9-ring blade technique had a total of 9 sets, divided into 36 paths. Wang Yu had used the technique from start to finish, and from end to end, back to front 4 times. Angela's HP had finally dropped to 30%. You despicable lackeys. Angela, who was at critical health, suddenly roared. Then, a green light enveloped her. Sigh, this woman doesn't know how to change the word. Is lackey that easy to say? Wang Yu secretly despised Angela. At the same time, he put away his sword and jumped back a few meters, escaping from Angela's attack range. Come and feel the anger of the nether serpents. Angela spread her arms and shouted crazily. The door is wide open. Seeing this, Wang Yu secretly rejoiced and rushed forward. Whoosh! Whoosh! Before Wang Yu could rush out a few steps, he suddenly felt a tremor under his feet. F***CK. Wang Yu looked down and saw more than 10 stone pillars bursting out from under his feet. Wang Yu hurriedly turned his body sideways, swung his hips, twisted his waist, and dodged the stone pillar that rose from the ground. Just as he was about to continue forward, pa! A crisp sound rang out. Wang Yu's long sword was stuck between 2 stone pillars. Wang Yu sweated profusely. The stone pillars that Angela had summoned were the same as the stone forest in the palace. The gap between them was very small, and only one person could pass through at a time. It was very inconvenient to move with a weapon in one's hand. At this moment, Angela raised her hand, and a green poisonous fog shrouded over. Wang Yu had no choice but to put away his 2-handed sword and retreat out of the range of the stone forest. It wasn't easy to run away after beating someone up. Angela hated Wang Yu to the core. She didn't even have to deliberately make him hate her. She directly chased after him. Wang Yu's original intention was to lure Angela out of the stone forest and then kill her. Who knew that this stone forest could actually move? Wherever Angela went, the stone forest followed. The shamelessness of the system really made people want to curse out loud. Old cow, you F***king run to the right. Wu Ji hid behind another stone forest and shouted at Wang Yu. As Wang Yu ran to the right, he was puzzled. There's no point in running to the right. It's working if you lure her away. Wu Ji said. F***CK. The direction that Wang Yu ran to the right was the wall. Angela's stone forest covered a very large area. Under Angela's pursuit, Wang Yu was blocked at the corner of the wall. F***CK. The 2 dogs of the Holy Dynasty are over there. My reputation in the Light faction -200. Wang Yu felt more wronged than anyone else. As the saying goes, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. Since they were all people who were harmed by the Holy Dynasty, they should be able to appreciate each other. Why do they have to kill each other? Oof. Angela naturally wouldn't be so easily bewitched. She snorted coldly and ignored Wang Yu's nonsense. She stared at him and released Death's Stare. Wang Yu rolled on the ground and dodged Death's Stare. Angela took a few steps forward and completely blocked Wang Yu at the corner of the wall. After being sealed by the stone forest, Wang Yu had no other way. The gap between the stone pillars was less than a meter. Wang Yu, who was a big guy, was naturally not as agile as Angela, who had a slender body. More importantly, Wang Yu couldn't use his current abilities at all. The length of the long sword was about 1.5 meters. In this stone forest, it was difficult to hold it in one's hand. Not to mention brandishing it, it was inconvenient to use it because it was too long. Moreover, in Western fantasy games, long swords were mostly used for slashing. Stabbing was more like a lance. Hence, this terrain was only suitable for short weapons like gloves and daggers. However, Wang Yu didn't have a dagger, and the gloves weren't effective against Angela. Without the ability to attack, Wang Yu was like a tiger that had its teeth pulled out. He could only dodge and couldn't fight back. In contrast to Wang Yu's predicament, Angela was like a fish in water. She swung her tail and circled around the stone pillar. Then, she pounced at Wang Yu from above. Wang Yu flipped through his backpack as he dodged Angela's attacks. He mumbled, "Damn, if I don't have a dagger, a crossbow will do too. Now this looks good." Chapter 236. As he spoke, Wang Yu pulled out a strange long sword with a scabbard from his backpack. At this time, Angela had already pounced in front of Wang Yu. Wang Yu took a step forward, grabbed the scabbard with his left hand, and grabbed the hilt with his right hand. He suddenly pulled out the sword. Sizzle! With a piercing sound, Angela was pushed back. At the same time, a damage value of -1942 appeared above Angela's head. F***CK, what the hell? Blood Red War Flag and Wuji, who were not far away, were stunned when they saw the damage value above Angela's head. Angela was also shocked. She raised both her arms, and the poison cloud continued to envelop her. The strange long sword in Wang Yu's hand suddenly grew longer. Wang Yu pushed the long sword downwards and flew diagonally backward. Angela followed. Wang Yu threw the long sword forward, grabbed the stone pillar with both hands, and flew in a circle behind Angela. Then, he reached out and grabbed the long sword. Angela hurriedly turned around and attacked Wang Yu with Kiss of Nightmare. The long sword in Wang Yu's hand suddenly split into two. The scabbard in his left hand blocked Angela's mouth, and the sharp sword in his right hand stabbed into Angela's shoulder from top to bottom. Angela let out a furious roar. His eyes lit up, and he was about to activate Death's Stare. Wang Yu smiled slightly. Just like before, he moved behind Angela and used the long knife in his hand to choke Angela's throat. Sheathing, unsheathing, Wang Yu's movements were smooth. -1888. Another critical hit appeared above Angela's head. F***CK, what kind of weapon is this? Blood Red War Flag saw the sword in Wang Yu's hand split and closed, and its thoughts were in a mess. It thought, Rebirth has an enhanced version of the Swiss Army knife? This sword was the dark gold trash that Wang Yu had exchanged today. The Universe knife. The Chinquin blade belonged to the Tang Dao. Although its length was about the same as a two-handed sword, the way to use it was much worse than a two-handed sword. The main attack techniques of a two-handed sword were nothing more than horizontal slashes and vertical slashes. Even a kung fu master like Wang Yu could only perform a few simple movements with a heavy two-handed sword. However, Wang Yu's grasp of timing and rhythm was more accurate than that of an ordinary person. The Chinquin saber, on the other hand, was relatively light. It could be used to hack vertically with one hand and stab with both hands. Compared with ordinary two-handed swords, it was much more flexible and skillful. At this time, there was no obstacle in the stone forest when he used the two movements of stabbing and hacking. Moreover, the Universe saber also had sheath form. In this form, Wang Yu could use the draw technique. The draw technique was to hide the saber in the scabbard, and the moment it was drawn, it would cause instant damage to the enemy. Therefore, the movements were very subtle, and there was no need to worry about being stuck in this terrain. When the Universe Saber was sheathed, it would deal critical damage. The source of damage from the draw technique was the friction and explosive force between the saber and the scabbard. In layman's terms, the faster and more accurately Wang Yu drew the saber, the higher the critical hit rate. In other words, in Wang Yu's hands, critical hits became a controllable effect. The Universe Saber's attack was not high, but the damage from a critical hit was far higher than the normal damage of other weapons. As a result, this Universe Saber was much easier to use than the two-handed sword just now. After the draw technique hit Angela for the second time, she simply waved her hand and threw a poisonous mist on her head. Wang Yu put away his weapon, jumped, and stepped on a stone pillar to hide in midair. When the effect of the poisonous mist disappeared, Wang Yu descended from the sky, and the Universe Saber in his hand circled around Angela's neck again. Just now, Wang Yu was focused on dodging Angela's attacks, and did not notice that the stone pillars could be climbed. Angela was to blame for being pretentious and insisting on attacking from above. This immediately reminded Wang Yu that compared to jumping up and down, grandmasters of combat were obviously better at it than mages. Wang Yu's figure shuttled through the forest of stone pillars, jumping up and down. The saber in his hand changed forms back and forth, either blocking, attacking, or using it as a displacement tool. His movements were smooth, and his figure was elegant. He waited for the right moment to strike, and each strike was critical. If I say steel slash, stepping forward, or Hasidu, will I be killed by the protagonist? Angela could not even touch the corner of Wang Yu's clothes. Angela was also a pitiful woman. She had wanted to use the stone pillars to restrict Wang Yu's movements, but who knew that this guy was even more at home than she was? It was as if she had shot herself in the tail. Damn, so cool. Amateurs watched the show. The two amateurs not far away did not understand the intricacy of Wang Yu's moves. At that moment, there was only one word in their eyes: cool. If Wang Yu heard this, he would feel depressed and sigh at the inadequacy of his skills. With Wang Yu following her like a shadow, Angela completely collapsed. She did not last long and simply gave up resisting. In the end, she was hacked to death by Wang Yu. System notification: you have completed the dungeon quest, Cursed Snake. Reward: 40% completion rate. After Angela died, all the stone pillars disappeared. Wuji and Blood Red War Flag walked over in a stupefied manner. Seeing the wound on Angela's neck, Wuji sighed. You're too cruel. She's a female boss, after all. Can't you stab somewhere else if you slash at her neck? As he spoke, Wuji glanced at Angela's tail and sighed. What a pity. She's so pretty for nothing. What's a pity? Wang Yu was puzzled. There's nowhere to stab. Wuji spread his hands. F***CK. Blood Red War Flag broke out in a cold sweat. That's too wretched. Wang Yu was still puzzled. Why is there nowhere to stab? Her neck is good. Neck, I didn't expect you to be such a bull. Hey, who's going to loot the equipment? Blood Red War Flag hurriedly interrupted their conversation. Wuji glared at Blood Red War Flag and said, Don't talk about us. Try touching her Blood Red War Flag. For the token, endure. I'll loot it. Wang Yu volunteered. Wang Yu actually quite liked the excitement of looting equipment. Ever since she witnessed the luck of Pride and Blood Red War Flag, Wang Yu realized that her hands, which harmed others without benefiting herself, were not evil at all. What if I say no? Wuji asked. Wang Yu placed the Universe Saber in front of Wuji and asked, Do you think my saber looks cool? Wuji nodded. You can loot it. That's a good brother. Wang Yu chuckled and put the Universe Saber in his pocket. He started searching Angela's body with both hands. Wang Yu's luck seemed to be quite good today. He managed to loot the token that Blood Red War Flag had been dreaming of. My, Blood Red War Flag saw the token and almost jumped up in excitement. Wang Yu tossed the token to Blood Red War Flag. Blood Red War Flag hugged the token and kissed it. Wang Yu and Wuji were disgusted. This damn token was dug out from a corpse, and it was a snake. Who knew if it was poisonous? However, they were excited for less than 3 seconds. When Blood Red War Flag saw the description on the token, their faces sank. Garrison token, rare item. This item can be used to exchange for the right to guard the garrison Viper Valley. Chapter 237. Venomous Snake Valley was the map outside of Hurricane Cave. The monsters in this leveling area were all venomous snakes. Due to the lack of high-level antidotes on the market, the monsters here were quite difficult to deal with. If they really wanted to defend it successfully, they had to have an advantage in numbers. However, when defending the encampment, the number of monsters in the valley was based on the number of defending players. Moreover, each guild could at most find 2 guilds as reinforcements. In other words, all the guilds under Blood Alliance added up to 1,500 people. So if Blood Alliance defended Venomous Snake Valley, they wouldn't have an advantage in numbers. In this way, Blood Red War Flag's token seemed a bit useless. I told you long ago that the encampment token has a region. Wuji gloated. Sigh. Blood Red War Flag had just walked around heaven and hell. He was very depressed. Why am I so unlucky? Wuji said. If you are unlucky, that's your problem. You can't give us less money. Do you understand? Blood Red War Flag said with a dark face. I won't give you less. That's good. Wuji continued. Seeing that you are so honest, I can teach you a way to minimize your losses. What way? Blood Red War Flag's eyes lit up, and he asked eagerly. Put this token on the consignment shop. After selling it, buy another one. Blood Red War Flag heard this and said, Since it's a trade, I'll keep it. When the other guilds want to defend the encampment, I'll exchange it with them. Oh, Wuji's expression stiffened. He then asked, If it was you, would you choose to defend Venomous Snake Valley? Of course not. Blood Red War Flag said matter-of-factly. If I wanted to defend this place, I wouldn't exchange the token. Wuji laughed coldly. Then that's it. You're such an idiot and you won't choose to build an encampment here. Are there other idiots like you? Blood Red War Flag's face darkened. While the two of them were talking, Wang Yu had already looted the second item. The second item was a small green box. Its attributes were also very simple. Angela's Curse, special item. Only usable by the player who killed Angela. Yeah, this thing is quite interesting. Wuji said, feeling a little strange. After playing the game for so many years, this was the first time Wuji had seen an item that was specific to a player. Mine. Huh. Wang Yu laughed proudly and then opened the small box. Puff. As soon as the box was opened, a ball of green liquid jumped out of the box and rushed towards Wang Yu's face without any hesitation. F***CK. Wang Yu was shocked. He took out his Chinquan knife and waved it repeatedly, scattering the liquid on the ground. After the green liquid landed on the ground, it turned into a cloud of smoke and corroded the ground, forming a pit about 10 centimeters deep. F***CK. This guy is too sinister. He's dead and he's still throwing acid. Wang Yu had a lingering fear. Fortunately, he had dodged quickly. Otherwise, he would have definitely been poisoned to death. Wuji said after the fact, Angela's Curse is obviously for revenge. Speaking of which, why do you keep looting all these weird things? How would I know? Wang Yu muttered gloomily and continued looting the corpse. At the same time, he secretly despised Angela. At the very least, he was a gold boss. The first time, he dropped a token, which almost caused Blood Red War Flag to be depressed to death. The second time, he dropped that thing, which almost caused Wang Yu to die. If the third time he still dropped an unknown object, Wang Yu and the other two would probably be dead. Fortunately, Angela did not ruin her reputation as a gold boss. The third item was a piece of equipment. Venomous Fong, dagger, gold, attack, 62-72 mana, 27-35 plus 17 agility plus 9 strength poison. Passive skill. 20% chance of causing the target to enter a weakened state. After being poisoned, the target's speed and attack will be reduced by 30%. Snake Fong. Passive skill. Normal attack. 20% chance of causing a slashing effect. 20% damage per second. Fatal Blow. Active skill. Burns own HP to deal a fatal blow to the target. Deals damage equal to 120% of the user's HP burned. Cooldown, 1800 seconds. Slow bleed, fatal blow. Wang Yu was very satisfied with this dagger. However, because Wang Yu and Blood Red War Flag had already taken other items, the dagger was taken by Wuji. After the three of them left the dungeon, Wang Yu was very unhappy. I was tricked just now. How can this be considered as a share of the benefits? Who cares? You took Angela's curse. Moreover, this dagger is not a Grandmaster of combat weapon. Why do you want it? Wang Yu said, if I had this dagger just now, I would have killed Angela. Don't you have a combination sword? As he said this, Wuji glanced at the heaven and earth sword in Wang Yu's hand and exclaimed, why did your sword change shape? Change shape? When Wang Yu heard this, he quickly looked down and saw that the heaven and earth sword in his hand, which was originally brand new, was now rusted. It looked like it would break at the slightest touch. The attributes of the item had also changed. Cursed heaven and earth sword attack, 1-1 magic, 1-1, unusable. Seeing the attributes of the heaven and earth sword, Wang Yu wanted to cry. F***CK. How did it become like this? This heaven and earth sword was the most suitable weapon that Wang Yu had obtained since he entered the game. He had only used it once, and it had become like this. How could Wang Yu accept this? Wuji comforted him. I guess it's because you used this sword to block Angela's curse. That's why this sword became like this. This is considered a treasure protecting its owner. My condolences. Condolences? Wang Yu said with distress. If I knew that that thing would destroy equipment, I might as well die once. In the game, one could respawn infinitely after dying, and equipment was the best. Wuji sighed when he heard this. I'm very pleased that you can say that. At least you're like a normal player. But I think this sword is just rusted. It's not completely destroyed. It should still be usable after some repairs. Where can I repair it? A blacksmith shop. This is common sense. Wuji said. Okay, I'll go back to the city and ask later. Wang Yu nodded. The instant's dungeon had been cleared and the token was obtained. Blood Red War Flag was indeed in a bad mood. However, no matter how bad his mood was, he still had to pay. When he took the money bag from Blood Red War Flag, Wang Yu could not help but soften when he saw Blood Red War Flag's dejected look. If you have any difficulties, we can help you. After all, we're so familiar with each other. Don't look at how Wang Yu made Blood Red War Flag feel bad. In fact, Wang Yu's impression of Blood Red War Flag was not too bad. Really? Blood Red War Flag was overjoyed. Of course it's true. Wuji took over the conversation and said lightly, as long as the commission is enough, Blood Red War Flag. Chapter 238. After returning to Yu Huicheng, Wang Yu separated from Wuji and went to the blacksmith shop without stopping. At this moment, Wang Yu was anxious to know if his universe saber could still be saved. The blacksmith shop was still very lively. As players became stronger, it became easier to get equipment blueprints. Therefore, there seemed to be more players practicing forging than before. After all, blueprints were very valuable. No one was willing to give such a valuable thing to others to forge. If they forged it themselves, even if they couldn't forge something good, they wouldn't blame anyone. Wang Yu squeezed through the crowd and came to the blacksmith. He handed over the universe saber and said, Master, can my saber still be repaired? What do you think this is? The blacksmith turned his head and asked Wang Yu. A saber? Wang Yu said strangely. Don't NPCs know what a saber is in Western fantasy games? The blacksmith shook his head and said, You can only say that it's a piece of scrap iron. Wang Yu sweated and asked, Can it still be repaired? The blacksmith did not answer the question and said, This scrap iron looks good. If you reforge it, I can make a dagger for you. F***CKU. No matter how good Wang Yu's self-cultivation was, he couldn't help but curse after being repeatedly despised by the NPC. After glaring at the blacksmith fiercely, Wang Yu took back the universe saber from the blacksmith's hand. Just as Wang Yu was about to go out, a voice suddenly stopped Wang Yu. Young man, your saber looks familiar. When Wang Yu heard the voice, he immediately stopped. Then he turned back to the blacksmith shop and walked to the side of the sloppy dwarf in the corner. Wasn't it familiar? In the item introduction of this saber, this sloppy dwarf was the maker of the universe saber. Teacher Simba, can you repair this saber? Wang Yu handed the saber to the dwarf. Simba scolded, Child, stop messing around. This saber is already like this. How can it be repaired? Air. Wang Yu curled his lips in disappointment. So you can't do anything either, Simba said. I can't say that I'm powerless because this saber is a failed product. Even if I can repair it, I won't repair it. As a craftsman god, Simba had forged countless divine weapons in his life, but this universe saber was the only failed product that he had painstakingly forged. The failed product and the god of crafts were like a stain. At this moment, it was clearly impossible for Simba to fix this stain. Wang Yu also understood this, so he naturally knew that he couldn't force others to do something they didn't want to do. So Wang Yu asked, Then can you forge a new one? I'll provide whatever materials you need. We don't lack forging fees. In fact, Wang Yu wasn't very picky about weapons. If it was any other weapon, even if it couldn't be used, Wang Yu could still use it if it was the same model. However, Wang Yu liked this universe saber too much because it was a traditional Chinese weapon. Wang Yu had used this kind of thing as a toy since he was a child, so he felt a connection with it in his hand. Moreover, it was harder to get such a weapon in Western fantasy. If this saber was broken, who knew how long it would take to find a similar model? Simba laughed and said, Hee hee, this weapon specifications are very special. Not only is the forging technique very high, but the material requirements are also extremely harsh. Back then, I searched the continent and found a set of materials. Don't waste your effort. Then what should I do? Wang Yu continued to ask. Wang Yu didn't believe that Simba didn't have a way. If he really didn't have a way, this old dwarf wouldn't stop Wang Yu. For an NPC to talk to players for no reason, there must be a quest. Simba laughed and said, I've been here every day because I like you. How about this? If you don't lack money, I have a quest for you. Are you interested? System notification. You have activated the A-rank quest, Qualified Blacksmith. Do you accept? Notification. This is a special quest. You need to pay 300 gold to accept. F*CK. Seeing the quest notification, Wang Yu nearly jumped up. 300 gold. Today, Wang Yu put in so much effort to help Blood Alliance clear the dungeon, but he had only earned 250 gold. Now, accepting a quest would cost him 300 gold. In this dungeon, he had lost 50 gold. What kind of logic was this? The system's methods of making money were just too low class. Simba saw Wang Yu's expression and hurriedly waved his hands and said, Young man, don't look like that. This quest isn't for someone of your level. You just activated it ahead of time. Let me tell you, this blade itself is a quest item. After completing this quest, not only will you regain this blade, you will also receive additional rewards. Simba didn't lie to Wang Yu. This Heaven and Earth blade was the key to a special chain of quests. If a normal player saw the trash stats of this dark old equipment, they would definitely follow the item description and find Simba. Then, they would spend money to accept the quest and complete the chain of quests. Only Wang Yu saw this blade and actually treated it as a weapon. If it wasn't for Angela spitting acid on it, Wang Yu probably wouldn't have known that the Heaven and Earth blade had such a use. Additional rewards? Wang Yu was a little tempted. Young people were just so easy to lie to. Not only could he repair the Heaven and Earth blade, he could also receive other rewards. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, why not? That's right, I guarantee that it will be worth it. Simba said with a smile. All right, I'll accept it. Wang Yu gritted his teeth, took out his money pouch, and took out 300 gold coins to hand over to Simba. Simba smiled and accepted the money. Then, Wang Yu received a system notification. System notification. You have accepted the A-rank quest Qualified Blacksmith. Find smelting stone 0 to 1. Find Simba's pen, ruler 0 to 1. Quest can be shared. Maximum party size is 0/3. Wang Yu knew about the smelting stone. Last time in the Hell Instance dungeon, Wang Yu obtained a dark gold treasure chest that contained a smelting stone. At that time, Wang Yu didn't know what it was used for, so he just threw it in the bank. But Simba's pen ruler didn't look like it was used to forge equipment. What's a pen ruler? Wang Yu asked curiously. It's a pen and ruler, Simba said. F***CK. Wanyu coughed up blood. So a pen and ruler were two different items. To think that he thought they were the same strange item. Can I go to the grocery store and buy you a set? Simba shook his head and said, It's not the same. The pen ruler was given to me by my teacher. With them, I could be considered a true god of crafts. Then do you know where the pen ruler is? Wanyu asked again. I don't know. Just as Wanyu was about to get angry, Simba immediately said, The last time I used them was in Iron Rock Castle. P.S. Today I saw many people from Genesis reading this book. I was very happy. Hello everyone. Thank you for your support. Chapter 239. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Talk.net, providing you with exciting novels to read. Iron Rock Castle. Wanyu had heard Mingdu talk about it before. The Iron Rock Castle was located in Thunderstorm City. Thunderstorm City was located at the border between the Light faction and the Dark faction. It could be said to be the gateway between the two camps. The Iron Rock Castle was located between the two camps, becoming an important fortress that separated the two. In the background story of Rebirth, the Iron Rock Castle was a legendary fortress. It was also the place where the dwarfs, gnomes, and goblins originated. Because of the location of these three races, the forging techniques and technology of the Iron Rock Castle had always been at the top of the Rebirth continent. The indestructible heavy armor of the dwarfs and the unstoppable power of the mountains made the Iron Rock Castle indestructible. The technology of the dwarfs could create war machines like the magic airship. The goblins even combined technology with traditional forging techniques, creating magical weapons that used magic crystals as their energy source. The power of these weapons was comparable to the destructive forbidden spells. In history, the two invasions of the Dark Army had failed because of the existence of the Iron Rock Castle. However, after the retreat of the Dark Army for the second time, something happened to the Iron Rock Castle. This indestructible fortress became the most poignant joke in the history of Rebirth. No matter how strong a castle was, it was still afraid of internal collapse. Because of the difference in the talents of the races, there was always a gap between the three races. It was also because of this that a chaotic war broke out between the three races. In the end, the gnomes scattered, the goblins went extinct, and the dwarfs won a Pyrrhic victory. Go little say, Netka the Iron Rock Castle also became a wasteland. After the invasion of the Dark Army, the human army of the Light faction took over the Iron Rock Castle and stationed there again. The Iron Rock Castle thus became the territory of Thunderstorm City. After receiving the mission, Wanyu opened the guild channel and asked, Ming, are you still in Thunderstorm City? Mingdu, after a long while, Mingdu replied, Yes. Yes. Mingdu only said one word, which made Wanyu very surprised. At this moment, Chun Xiang suddenly said, Old Li, are you being hunted again? Yes. Mingdu replied concisely. Tell me, what's going on? Chun Xiang sounded as if he was watching a show. Get lost. Mingdu cursed and didn't reply. Anyo, are you also going to Thunderstorm City? Chun Xiang asked Wanyu. Yup, yeah. Tell me, what are you going to do? Chun Xiang asked again. Wanyu asked, Brother Chun, are you very free? I'm quite free. Chun Xiang said, I'm currently on the airship heading to Thunderstorm City. Wanyu was speechless for a moment and thought to himself, What's wrong with Thunderstorm City? There are actually so many missions in Thunderstorm City. F***CK, Spring Dog, Old Cow, what are you doing here? Don't tell me our mission is to crash into each other. At this time, Mingdu appeared again. Perhaps because he was already out of danger, he became more talkative. Chun Xiang said, I'm going to Iron Rock Castle to find the cultivation notes of a cultivator. Wanyu said, I'm going to Iron Rock Castle to find Simba's brush ruler. Mingdu roared, F***CK, your grandpa. My mission is also at Iron Rock Castle, to find Ryan's cultivation notes. Wanyu scratched his head and said, From missions, these three missions shouldn't be related at all. Seems like it's not a collision of missions. With the system's nature, I think it's very mysterious. Chun Xiang analyzed. The notes and the brush ruler both have the word pen, so it's very likely that there's a connection between them. The notes in the notes are actually the same thing, so they'll probably crash into each other. You're being too far-fetched. Wang Yu was speechless. The notes in the notes are the same thing, so it's understandable if they crash into each other, but the notes and the brush ruler only have a word pin in them, so how can they be related? Chun Xiang said, "It's not that I'm being far-fetched, it's just that this system is too unreliable." When Chun Xiang said this, Wang Yu's heart skipped a beat. Even great virtue could be set as a weight, so it was clear that this game designer was uncultured. Mingdu interrupted, "Forget it. Iron Rock Castle is too hard to get anyway. This mission can't be completed by one person. You guys come over first, and we'll talk after we get the item. If it's what we need, that's the best. But if it really crashes into each other, we'll play rock, paper, scissors to decide the winner." "Why rock, paper, scissors?" Wang Yu was puzzled. "Then how about rolling? Can't we fight one-on-one?" Wang Yu said. Chun Xiang and Mingdu laughed. Hee hee, we're all brothers. It'll hurt our relationship if we fight." Wang Yu said, "It's okay, we're all on the same side. Even if we fight to the death, we're still friends, I don't mind." F***CKU. Chun Xiang and Mingdu were furious. If they fought with this brat, would they have any chance of winning? After agreeing on a meeting place with Mingdu and Mingdu, Wang Yu left the smithy and boarded the airship to Thunderstorm City. 50 minutes later, Wang Yu arrived at Thunderstorm City. Thunderstorm City was a very grand city, built along the snow-covered Sagram mountain range. The reason why it was called Thunderstorm City was because the city's terrain was very high. When thunder clouds gathered in the sky, Thunderstorm City seemed to be in the center of lightning. One of the 7 heroes, Great Mage Renault, was born in Thunderstorm City. The name of the 7 heroes attracted many mage players, so this city was also called Mage City. Thunderstorm City was a mountain city, so the buildings in the city were quite compact. Unlike Yu Huiqing's roads, there were many small alleys and alleys, giving Wang Yu a headache. Fortunately, this was in the game. According to the coordinates that Mingdu shared, Wang Yu finally found the tavern that Mingdu mentioned. After entering the tavern, Mingdu and Chun Xiang were there toasting each other. Nobody knew what the two of them were talking about, but the smiles on their faces were extremely wretched and despicable. It complemented the way the two of them acted. "Hey, Brother Chun, Old Li." Seeing the two of them, Wang Yu greeted them at the door. The two of them hurriedly looked up and waved their hands when they saw Wang Yu. "Anyo, come sit." Just as Wang Yu sat down, a mage and a grandmaster of combat at the next table suddenly walked over. The mage walked to the table of the 3 of them. He first looked at Chun Xiang and Mingdu. Then his eyes fell on the badges on their chests. "Xuanjin?" The mage asked calmly, his face expressionless. "Not bad. Do you want an autograph?" Mingdu asked with a smile. "The unparalleled Li Zichong?" The mage squinted at Mingdu. At this moment, Wang Yu clearly saw that Mingdu and Chun Xiang's hands, which were holding the wine, shook. "Who are you?" Chun Xiang stared at the mage and asked. "Li Zichong. That was Mingdu's ID when Xuanjin was first established. This ID was from a long time ago. Other than those who were close to Xuanjin, no one would remember these old IDs, let alone match such an old ID with the current members of Xuanjin. 90% of those who were close to Xuanjin were enemies." Chapter 240. A Night of Listening to the Spring Rain. When Spring and Ming heard this name, a relieved expression appeared on their faces. No wonder he was able to recognize the two of them. It turned out to be this fellow. "You guys know each other?" Wang Yu asked quietly. "That's right. That bastard used to have a decent guild, but we destroyed it," Mingdu said calmly, as if he were talking about something insignificant. Wang Yu nodded. "That's the style of you guys. This guy is quite pitiful." Wang Yu looked at the fish in the water sympathetically. "He's pitiful? Hee. Mingdu laughed coldly. Wang Yu was a pure gamer. Naturally, she had never heard of the nickname A Night of Listening to Spring Rain. Actually, anyone who had played games for a few years would have some understanding of this person. This was because Little Lou Listens to the Spring Rain last night was once the #1 player in the online gaming circle. The guild he created was called 3 Fiends Village, which had nearly 100,000 players. He created the legend of being the #1 player in the local server and even in the global gaming circle. It should be known that online games in that era were still keyboard and mouse games. The system server load was very average. Even the most popular regional server only had a few 100,000 players online at the same time. Just the 3 Evil Manor alone had 100,000 players. What kind of feeling was that, let alone the past? Even if the current Rebirth server was in the same world, the largest guild, unhindered, would only have 30 to 50,000 members. It was still a far cry from the 3 Fiends Manor of the past. At that time, the name A Night of Listening to Spring Rain was unparalleled in the gaming circle. The 3 Evils Manor had also ranked first in the World Gaming Weekly rankings several times. This huge empire dominated the local server for 5 years and became a legend in the gaming circle. Although 3 Evils Village was later destroyed due to internal strife and external enemies, A Night of Listening to the Spring Rain was unsurpassed in the hearts of the local players. Chun Xiang looked at the fish in the water and laughed. Hee hee, I was wondering who it was. So it's you trash. Tell me, where have you been hiding all these years? In the eyes of others, A Night of Listening to Spring Rain was the #1 player in the gaming circle. But in the eyes of Chuanjin, he was at most a stray dog. The fish in the water said, I've always been the game, but unlike you guys, I keep a low profile. Don't make it sound like I'm afraid of you guys. If you guys weren't afraid of revenge, you wouldn't have changed your name. Child, it's been so many years, and you still can't get rid of your self-righteousness. The reason why we changed our names is because Old Ling left, and we don't want to talk about the past anymore. At this point, Chun Xiang sneered and said, But seeing you today, this old man's hands are itching again. Speaking of which, have you created another guild? Even though the 3 Fiend Village had fallen, Xiao Lu's One Night Listens to Spring Rain's appeal was still there. As long as he wanted to create a guild and make a comeback, there would definitely be many ignorant players who would respond. The United Heart Alliance. This is my new guild. Don't worry, I won't let trash like you take advantage of me this time. Also, wash your neck and wait. One day, I will personally wipe your Chuanjin sect off the face of the gaming circle. As he spoke, a hint of viciousness appeared in Underwater Fish's eyes. Oh, this son of a *TCH is acting up again. Didn't he say the same thing back then? Huh? Hearing the fish in the water's words, Mingdu Si Wuji laughed in fear. At the same time, he mocked. The Unity Alliance, how ironic. Scum like you. Who would be of a Unity Alliance? Watch your words. Seeing Mingdu's insolence, the Grandmaster of Combat, who had been standing beside the fish in the water, suddenly reprimanded him. With Mingdu's temper, how could he tolerate others speaking to him like that? Just as the Grandmaster of Combat finished speaking, Mingdu raised his hand slightly, and a bolt of lightning descended from the sky. Boom! After the lightning passed, the Grandmaster of Combat, who should have been struck into white light, stood in the same place and sneered at the two of them, a playful expression on his face. Mingdu and Chun Xiang were slightly startled. Although Mingdu's character was despicable, he was very strong. Even in a group like Chuanjin, where experts were as common as clouds, he was at the forefront. Wherever that lightning magic went, even tanks would be left in critical health. Yet a Grandmaster of Combat actually didn't die. This was too strange. Could it be that he has magic resistance equipment? Mingdu muttered in a strange manner. Wang Yu indifferently said, No, he just dodged it. Dodged it? Mingdu was even more shocked. Up until now, Wang Yu was the only person that Mingdu had seen that could dodge Mingdu's magic head-on. And this Grandmaster of Combat could also dodge it. Didn't that mean? Not bad. This person is an expert. Wang Yu raised his glass and took a sip. At this time, that Grandmaster of Combat leaped over and threw a collapsing fist at Mingdu. Mingdu was startled. He leaned back and flashed to Wang Yu's side. That Grandmaster of Combat was still unwilling to let him go. He rushed over, his left hand forming a claw, while his right hand swung a fist. He wanted to grab Mingdu and kill Wang Yu at the same time. Dragons rush, tigers collapse. Wang Yu faintly smiled and put down his glass. Just as that Grandmaster of Combat's fist was about to hit his body, Wang Yu's body leaned to the side, and his shoulder slammed into that Grandmaster of Combat's chest. The Grandmaster of Combat hurriedly retracted his hand and pressed both of his hands on Wang Yu's shoulders, borrowing the force to fly back. From a moment Wang Yu made his move to the moment the Grandmaster of Combat flew back, only a split second had passed. Wang Yu didn't even stand up. So in the eyes of others, that Grandmaster of Combat looked as if he had accidentally bumped into Wang Yu. That Grandmaster of Combat did a backflip in midair and landed steadily on the ground. Flowing Cloud, are you okay? Underwater Fish walked to the Grandmaster of Combat's side and asked with concern. Underwater Fish's friendly tone made Chun Xiang, who was nearby, feel a chill run down his spine. But at this time, Chun Xiang also understood the background of this Grandmaster of Combat. Nian Luyun, a Grandmaster of Combat expert ranked second on the forum. In the area where Thunderstorm City was located, she was in the limelight. There were even many self-proclaimed professional and objective people on the forum who believed that Nian Luyun's strength surpassed Wang Yu, who was ranked first on the Grandmaster of Combat ranking. So, in the Grandmaster of Combat section, the question of which of the two experts was stronger was an everlasting topic. Chun Xiang, who liked to go to the forum to stir up trouble, had seen it a few times. Once an expert made a move, it would be obvious whether or not he was strong. The two of them had only fought for one round. Although no one was at a disadvantage, Chun Xiang instinctively felt that Wang Yu was still a level higher. Iron Mountain Lean, who are you? Nian Luyun pointed at Wang Yu and asked. Underwater Fish was puzzled. What Iron Mountain Lean? It's obviously the Grandmaster of Combat, level 20 Iron Mountain Crusher. Unbeknownst to him, although the skill Wang Yu used just now was Iron Mountain Crusher, the way he released, it was a standard move from Bajiquan, Iron Mountain Lean. An outsider like Underwater Fish naturally wouldn't understand. Chapter 241. Watching fish underwater was an amateur when it came to Kung Fu, but there were probably few who were more experienced than him in the game. Watching fish underwater knew Nian Luyun's strength very well. The two of them had been together since the beginning of the game. Watching fish underwater had never seen anyone or a boss that Nian Luyun could not defeat. He did not expect someone to be able to fight Nian Luyun to a standstill today. This shocked Watching Fish underwater. Facing Nian Luyun's question, Wang Yu smiled and said, "My name is Iron Ox." Iron Ox? Watching Fish underwater was instantly relieved. He cupped his hands at Wang Yu and said politely, "So you're the legendary Iron Ox. You live up to your name." Hee hee. Wang Yu smiled faintly and did not reply. Nian Luyun said angrily, "Don't play dumb with me. You know that's not what I'm asking." "Oh, you're talking about my real identity," Wang Yu said with a smile. "It's better if you don't know. Otherwise, you'll be scared to tears. Let's not talk about Jianghu in the game. I'll lower myself for a bit. Just call me Uncle Neo like everyone else." Watching Fish underwater was completely stunned when he heard this. "I'll lower myself for a bit. Just call me Uncle Neo." Damn, he was blatantly raising his seniority. He was too arrogant. Puff. Seeing Wang Yu's serious posturing, Mingdu laughed on the spot. "Old cow, I give you full marks for your posturing." Wang Yu continued to say seriously, "I don't know how to postulate." While Wang Yu was still talking nonsense with Mingdu with a straight face, Nian Luyun was so angry that she was about to explode. She pointed at Wang Yu and cursed. "Ignorant guy, how dare you speak so arrogantly? Do you really think I won't dare to kill you?" As he spoke, Nian Luyun charged forward once more. When Chun Xiang saw this, he took a step back and waved his staff. A black circle appeared under Wang Yu and Mingdu's feet. Just as the thought-flowing cloud was about to reach Wang Yu, a distortion boundary appeared out of nowhere and enveloped Wang Yu and Mingdu. Seeing this, Nian Luyun hurriedly used Eagle Stamp in midair and forcefully landed. At this time, Chun Xiang's demons had already been summoned and surrounded Nian Luyun. Using Ferocious Tiger Slash, Flowing Cloud grabbed one of the demon's heads and flung it forward, breaking through the encirclement. After leaping out of the encirclement a few times, a look of shock appeared on Flowing Cloud's face. Clearly, this was the first time Flowing Cloud had suffered a loss before another player. Are you sure you want to stir up trouble here today? After Chun Xiang forced Nian Liyun back, he stared at the fish in the water and asked. With Wang Yu around, Chun Xiang was naturally not afraid of anything. However, this time, the three of them came to Thunderstorm City mainly to complete a quest. They were unfamiliar with this place, and they currently did not understand the strength of the fish in the water. There was no need to waste time on this kind of person. It was true that the fish in the water was an expert, but he understood the methods of these guys from Xuanjin. These guys were all experts who had killed their way through. Even the fish in the water could not guarantee that he could defeat any one of them. The reason why the fish in the water dared to stir up trouble was entirely because of Nian Liyun. However, Xuanjin also had an expert who was not inferior at all. The fish in the water were not stupid. In a situation of 3 against 2, how could they dare to fight head-on? Flowing Cloud, let's go. If you want to take care of them, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. The fish in the water tugged on Nian Liyun's arm. Oomph. Nian Liyun coldly snorted and said, Iron Ox, right? I'll remember you. Don't let me see you again in the future. After saying that, Nian Liyun followed the fish in the water out of the tavern. All right, old cow. Your words just now, I'll condescend to let you call me Uncle Nyo, are really King awesome. Ha ha. Yeah, I couldn't tell. Onyo, your mouth is also quite sharp, ha ha. After the fish in the water left, Mingdu and Chun Xiang laughed out loud. This was the first time they had seen Wang Yu hurt someone. Wang Yu waited for the two to laugh enough before saying lightly, I'm not joking. He's so young. Calling me uncle is definitely condescending. At least I'm on the same level as his grandfather. Hearing what Wang Yu said, Mingdu and Chun Xiang also stopped laughing and asked, Do you know him in real life? I don't know him, Wang Yu said, but I can guess his identity from his kung fu. The move Dragon Rush Tiger Rush that Nian Liyun used just now was a move in Bajiquan. Bajiquan was the signature kung fu of the Li family. Dragon Rush Tiger Rush was a move that could only be learned by inner disciples, so Wang Yu recognized Nian Liyun's identity at a glance. The martial arts world had always been about the strong. In the kung fu circle, Wang Yu's seniority was frighteningly high. Even among the 4 big families, there were only a few people who were on the same level as Wang Yu. The two's eyes were dull, as if they couldn't understand it all. Speaking of which, that kid is very powerful. Do you have the confidence to beat that kid? Compared to Wang Yu's seniority, Mingdu and Chun Xiang were more curious about who was better between Wang Yu and Nian Liyun. This was also a hot topic on the forum. In real life or in the game? Asked Wang Yu. Tell me both. Wang Yu said, in real life, his grandfather can probably take 50 moves from me. As for in the game, I haven't fought against him. I think I'm better. CK. Does your family know you're bragging? Mingdu and Chun Xiang looked at Wang Yu in disdain. Wang Yu said disdainfully, Do I still need to brag about my strength? You can ask Yang Na. As for that Nian Liyun, I know him through and through with just one move. He probably doesn't even know my surname. Who's Yang Na? Qingshu, Wang Yu hurriedly said. He accidentally said Yang Na's real name. Oh, so her name is Yang Na. Mingdu's eyes narrowed. No one knew what he was up to. Wang Yu glared at Mingdu and said, Cut the crap. What's with the Iron Rock Fort mission? Damn it, don't even mention it. At the mention of Iron Rock Fort, Mingdu's expression quickly turned gloomy. Tell me, were you tortured? Chun Xiang seized the opportunity to ask. You'll know how bad this mission is when you get there. It's a 2-way mission. Mingdu said to Wang Yu. A 2-way mission? Are there players living in Iron Rock Fort? Chun Xiang asked. That's not all. It's the base of Thunderstorm City's biggest guild, Heavenly Wrath Berserk. Guild base. Chun Xiang was stunned when he heard Mingdu's words. If Iron Rock Castle were inhabited, it wouldn't be difficult to sneak in and retrieve an item. However, if it were a guild residence, it would be a different story. A guild base was a private safe zone. According to the system's settings, unless a guild war was started and the gate of Heavenly Wrath Berserk was broken, it would be impossible to enter. In the story of Rebirth, the Iron Rock Fortress was the strongest fortress. Even though the 3 major races had declined due to the Civil War, the hardware and facilities of the Iron Rock Fortress were still there. Now that there were players guarding it, it was impossible to break through. Chapter 242, Heavenly Wrath Berserk, was the same as Royal City Root. They were both newly risen guilds. Unlike Royal City Root, which was a professional guild that was built with money, Heavenly Wrath Berserk Heavenly Wrath was built with real strength. Thunderstorm City, as one of the 7 heroes living in seclusion, was not a small city. The population of this main city was nearly 3 times that of Yuhuicheng. To be able to stand out among so many players, become the largest guild, and even get a stronghold like Iron Rock Fort as their guild base, Berserk Sky Wrath definitely had real skills. Now, Berserk Sky Wrath had 2 guilds, nearly 1,000 people, at least 40 experts above level 20, and more than 80% of the experts on the second server ranking were in Berserk Sky Wrath. It was normal for experts to gather together. After all, skilled experts would choose to join a big guild to prove themselves. The more experts a guild had, the easier it was to recruit experts. That was why the big guilds would focus on their development when the game's servers opened. The number and quality of Berserk Sky Wrath players were very high, and they had a stronghold as their base. Even if Wang Yu and the other 2 could enter Iron Rock Fort under the mission state, the enemy was so strong that this mission was almost impossible to complete. I think we should think of a way. After listening to Mingdu's introduction, Wang Yu said with a serious expression, "Compared to the thousands of people from Elysium, Berserk Sky Wrath only had 1,000 people, which was indeed not a lot. However, the difference in difficulty between guarding a stronghold and chasing a whole city was not small. When Yu Huicheng was there, Chuanjin's people had the home advantage. They could run and fight at the same time. If they could not win, they could find a safe zone to hide. They were in a completely active state, dragging thousands of people to fight. As long as they were shameless enough, they could still do it. But now, Chuanjin's 3 people had become the attacking side, facing 1,000 people head-on. Wang Yu was not a blind and arrogant guy. Even if he was confident in his skills, Wang Yu would not do such a thing. "There is a way," Mingdu muttered. "Damn, there are only 3 of us. No matter what we think of, we can't make up for the difference in numbers." "Numbers?" Chun Xiang rubbed his chin and thought for a while. "How about we find people to attack Berserk Sky Wrath? Looking for someone? Do you have a lot of friends?" Mingdu asked. These fellows from Chuanjin had always been so despicable that they had no friends. Not to mention finding someone who was strong enough to contend against the Berserk Heavenly Punishment. They didn't even have more than 100 friends in their friend list. "Not many, but are there no other guilds in Thunderstorm City?" Chun Xiang asked with a smile. "Trying to sow discord again?" Wang Yu instantly understood the meaning behind Chun Xiang's words. These guys from Chuanjin were really taught by the same master. They always used the same trick, and they didn't change it at all. Sure enough, this trick was the best. Wang Yu couldn't help but admire the high success rate of this one move. It wasn't that the players were stupid, but the game was a world where power reigned supreme, and the impact of war wasn't that great. Moreover, life wasn't worth much, so when one side made a move, the other side would definitely draw their swords. Either way, no one wanted to admit defeat. In this way, some people with ulterior motives took advantage of this loophole. "What are you saying? This is called sowing discord." Chun Xiang was dissatisfied with Wang Yu's choice of words. "Then what about the time in Gokuriku Jodo? That's called grafting, but it revealed a flaw. It didn't work, okay." Wang Yu was helpless. He had nothing to say to these cultured hooligans. It seemed like Wuji had once said that there were many ways to sow discord. For example, using Nian to sow discord between Longsong Unmatched and Blood Alliance was called 2 tigers competing for prey. Another example was throwing fireworks to get the system to kill Royal City Root, was called driving the tiger to swallow the wolf. "What should we do this time?" Wang Yu asked. "First, we need to find a relatively large guild," Chun Xiang said. Mingdu said, "I'm not familiar with Thunderstorm City. I'll go take a look at the forums later." Thunderstorm City is a relatively large guild. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Chun Xiang smiled. I think watching Fish Underwater's Heart Alliance is a good choice. That bastard is a stray dog. The old players of Three Spirits Village have already been split up by them. Now watching Fish Underwater is living with his tail between his legs. How good can he be? Mingdu was full of disdain towards watching Fish Underwater. Don't say that, Chun Xiang explained. Although that trash watching Fish Underwater has become a dog, he's still good at winning people's hearts. The number of people in Heart Alliance is definitely no less than Berserk Sky Law. Mingdu curled his lips. So what if they have more people? Do you think they care about them? You can watch the show if you provoke two tigers to bite each other. If you provoke a dog and a tiger to bite each other, don't get yourself into trouble again. Hee. Chun Xiang smiled and then said, think about it. If watching Fish Underwater has an expert like Nian Luoyun, would he be convinced by Berserk Sky Law? At the same time, wouldn't Berserk Sky Law be afraid of the second server's top expert in Heart Alliance? This, Chun Xiang's words enlightened Wang Yu and Mingdu. In the game, experts were equivalent to weapons in the real world. The top expert was equivalent to a nuclear weapon. No matter how many powerful weapons the strongest country had, as long as the strongest weapon was not in their hands, the country would not feel safe. And the country that possessed the strongest weapons would also be restless and uneasy. Therefore, the two countries usually did not have any conflicts and would be on guard against each other. And then? How should we sow discord? Oh no, we should sow discord. Wang Yu asked. Chun Xiang asked Mingdu, we already know that the strongest expert in Heart Alliance is Nian Luoyun. Who is Berserk Sky Law's top expert? It's called Heart of Berserk Lightning. It's a lightning spell. Mingdu replied. If that's the case, then it's easy. We can do this. Chun Xiang looked around, then dipped his finger in wine and drew on the table while giving instructions to the two quietly. Will they fall for it this way? Wang Yu asked doubtfully after listening to Chun Xiang's plan. As long as we follow my plan, they won't fall for it. Chun Xiang said confidently. There are so many grandmasters of combat and magicians. Why would they think that we're Nian Luoyun and Heart of Berserk Lightning? Wang Yu was still worried about Chun Xiang's plan. He did not believe that the players were that stupid. Chun Xiang smiled faintly and said, there are a lot of grandmasters of combat and mages, but in this place there are only two strong grandmasters of combat and thunder mages who can instantly kill their enemies. They won't mistake them. Then how do we lure them into a chaotic battle? Mingdu asked. When the time comes, lure them into the city and follow my instructions in the channel. Chapter 243. Thunderstorm City was built on the mountain, and the whole city was built like Patala Palace. It occupied the entire mountain from top to bottom, and the streets of the whole city were clearly divided. The city was like this, and the leveling areas here also reflected each other, distributed from top to bottom according to the mountain. The top was the leveling area for level 70, and the bottom was the leveling area for level 10. Currently, players were between level 15 and 20, and most of them were leveling in the leveling area at the foot of the mountain. Due to the main city culture of Thunderstorm City, most of the monsters here were slow-moving monsters. These monsters were active around Thunderstorm City all year round. Although they didn't know long-range magic, they would all drop a special item called Thunder Core. Thunder Cores could be used to forge magic equipment. So on Thunderstorm City's side, the number of mages occupied 80%, and the remaining 20% were mostly warriors and strength type, and their sub-profession was blacksmith. Mingdu had seen the guild badge of Heart Alliance, and very quickly, Mingdu found a group of Heart Alliance players at the level 20 demonized yak spawn area. 1 warrior, 5 mages, 1 priest. This was the standard equipment in Thunderstorm City. Encountering this group of people, Mingdu didn't take the initiative to attack, but instead focused on throwing lightning monsters. Mingdu's magic attack power was very high, and the demonized yak's HP was 3,000, and its magic resistance was also not bad. Ordinary mages would need at least 5 or 6 lightning to kill it, but in Mingdu's hands, it only took 2 lightning. F***CK. That mage killed a yak with 2 lightning. Such a tyrannical magic attack made the mages of Heart Alliance raise their eyebrows. Thunderstorm City's specialty was the Thunder Core that strengthened lightning magic. Compared to other cities, Thunderstorm City had a surprisingly large number of lightning mages, accounting for more than half of the population, which was no less than tens of thousands of people. Even so, among these tens of thousands of people, players with super high magic damage were rare, and 1 in 10,000 who could kill a demonized yak with 2 lightning bolts. Everyone naturally thought of a person. Could it be the heart of raging thunder? Everyone guessed. As an iconic mage expert of Thunderstorm City, Heart of Wild Thunder was also used to leveling alone. Therefore, when everyone saw Mingdu's high magic damage, they treated Mingdu as Heart of Wild Thunder. Mingdu's spells were powerful, his mechanical skills were good, and his efficiency in killing monsters was much higher than the entire Unity Alliance party. It didn't take long for Mingdu to kill all the monsters in front of him. Then, as if it was a matter of course, he walked over to the Unity Alliance party. The leveling area was the equivalent of Red Alert. Have you played it before? A gold mine in a novel. Cutting off one's path to wealth was akin to killing one's parents. Everyone from United Alliance was enraged when they saw Bright City's arrogance in snatching leveling areas. Damn it! What does this grandson mean? What's the point? Go and level up. Motherf asterisk Kerr. An expert? That's all you've got? Seeing Mingdu approach them step by step, the United Heart Alliance's members grew increasingly furious. Old devil, what should we do? Seeing Mingdu clear monsters all the way over, everyone turned to look at their leader, I Touch Compassion. I Touch Compassion's previous ID was called I Touch Compassion. However, because his name had been taken, he ended up with a salty and wet name. Although I Touch Compassion's name was very salty and wet, his strength was extraordinary. He was one of the core experts of the Unity Alliance, and he was also the only warrior among the core experts. What should we do? Move aside. I Touch Compassion spat at Mingdu. This grandson isn't easy to deal with. Let's move to the right. Sigh. Hearing this, everyone sighed, but no one objected. After all, Heart of Wild Thunder was famous, and Berserk Heavenly Wrath was the #1 guild in Thunderstorm City. It wasn't wise to cause conflict in the early stages of the game. Thus, the United Heart Alliance stopped and moved dozens of meters to the right. There weren't too many monsters within a few dozen meters, so there was enough for one person to farm. I Touch Compassion thought that he handled this matter very well. Who knew that just as everyone stopped and prepared to attack, that wild thunder world would come over again. F***CK. Is this son of AB** TCH looking for trouble? The United Heart Alliance players were furious. They had already taken a step back, but this bastard wanted a foot after giving him an inch. He was too despicable. Old demon, you could tolerate this? Everyone asked. I Touch Compassion. I tolerated him and bought a watch. Everyone, farm monsters here and ignore him. I don't believe that he dares to attack us. I Touch Compassion angrily ordered. As a warrior class that fought force with force, I Touch Compassion's temper wasn't too soft. Tolerating once was the magnanimity of the United Heart Alliance, but if he wanted a foot after giving him an inch, then he would be shameless. With I Touch Compassion's words, the United Heart Alliance players had a pillar of support. Everyone quietly farmed their own monsters, ignoring Mingdu's arrogant behavior. Mingdu walked to the side of the United Heart Alliance with a smile. He didn't farm monsters, but just tilted his head and watched them level up. The United Heart Alliance players were puzzled. F***CK. Is there something wrong with this idiot? Is it fun to watch others level up? Just as the United Heart Alliance players were reducing a demonized yak to a sliver of health, the warrior went up to finish it off. Suddenly, Mingdu moved. Lightning. Mingdu raised his hand, and a bolt of lightning descended from the sky, turning the demonized yak into dust. In Rebirth, when players formed a party to kill monsters, they would split the experience equally. If they didn't form a party, the other players would still get the experience, but the player who dealt the last hit would get 50% of the total experience. In other words, Mingdu easily took away half of the experience with a lightning bolt. F***CK. The United Heart Alliance players were boiling with excitement. They formed a formation and glared at Mingdu. Their swords were drawn, and a battle was about to break out. Mingdu ignored them and continued to stare at the other monsters, waiting for the United Heart Alliance players to attack. I Touch Compassion walked out from the group and asked politely, "You must be the famous Heart of Violent Thunder." Hee hee. Mingdu smiled. He didn't say yes or no, but in my Touch Compassion's eyes, Mingdu had clearly admitted it. "We are from the United Heart Alliance, and we have no grudges with the Berserk Sky Law. Isn't it bad for you to do this?" I Touch Compassion said again. My hand slipped. Mingdu smiled. Slipped. I Touch Compassion heard this, and a cross-shaped bump popped up on his forehead. Who the hell was he kidding? It's true. Mingdu continued to say indifferently. Okay, I hope you can be more careful next time. I Touch Compassion glared at Mingdu and walked back to the party. I called out to everyone and continued to pull monsters to level. However, when a monster only had a sliver of health left, another lightning bolt descended from the sky. Sorry, my hand slipped again. Mingdu faced everyone's angry gazes and spread his hands with a smile. His expression was as annoying as ever. Chapter 244. Motherf * Kerr. A bad-tempered mage from the Alliance cursed and threw a lightning bolt at Mingdu. Mingdu drank a health potion and sneered at the player. He thought to himself, "I was waiting for you to make a move." Seeing Mingdu looking at him, the player pointed his middle finger at him and scolded. My hand slipped too. What's wrong? Very good. Mingdu raised his staff and a bolt of lightning fell. The player turned into a ray of light and flew away. At this time, the other members of the Alliance had also launched their lightning bolts. Mingdu took a step back and easily dodged them. This was the weakness of lightning spells. They were non-directional and required a lot of preparation. Without Mingdu's ability to predict, their hit rate in PKs was very low. After Mingdu dodged the skills of the mages, he activated level 15 lightning enhancement. His magic damage increased by a large amount. Immediately after, Mingdu threw out level 20 lightning impact and arcane missile. The two skills instantly killed the shield warrior Touching Mercy. *CK. Seeing that Touching Mercy was instantly killed, everyone panicked. They were all brothers from the same guild, so they were very clear about Touching Mercy's HP and defense. Two skills were enough to instantly kill him. His magic damage was simply terrifying. Thunderstorm City's #1, Mage, wasn't just for show. With the profoundest magic orb in hand, Bright Dough's casting speed and cooldown were both much faster than the average person's. After killing I Touch Mercy, everyone else's lightning spell was still on cooldown. Bright Dough's lightning spell was also on cooldown. Fireball. Mages were born with Fireball. Level 5 was Fire Shield, also known as Resistance Ring of Fire. Level 10 was Lightning Spell, and level 15 was Lightning Enhancement. These mages were not level 20 experts, so their current attack methods were only Fireball and Lightning Spell. Seeing Mingdu raise his staff again, the four of them each threw a Fireball at Mingdu. Fireball was a directional skill, so it couldn't be dodged. However, Fireball was a level 1 spell, so no one would spend time to practice it. Its attack power was very low. Mingdu didn't have any intention of dodging. The instant before the Fireball hit him, he threw out a Thunderbolt and a Fireball. 2 white lights flashed, and 2 more people were killed. The other 2 had also finished their lightning spells and were about to cast their spells, when Mingdu's Lightning Blast and Arcane Missiles were already in front of them. Another 2 streaks of white light flashed, and 2 people were killed. The team of 7 now only had 1 useless priest left. In the face of Mingdu's instant kill spell, the priest was really useless. After dealing with the cleric, Mingdu sent a message to Chun Xiang and Wang Yu. Okay, it's your turn. After receiving the message, Wang Yu, who was drinking with Chun Xiang in the tavern, put down the wine glass in his hand and left the city. After Wang Yu left, Chun Xiang also swung his arms and left the tavern. Then, he followed the main road and walked towards the city lord's residence. In a resurrection point of Thunderstorm City, the players from Unity Alliance who were killed by Mingdu weren't in a good mood. As soon as they resurrected, their faces darkened and they cursed. Damn. Heart of Violent Thunder. F*CKU. Heart of Violent Thunder's reputation in Thunderstorm City wasn't inferior to that of Chuanjin in Yuhuiqing. Moreover, Heart of Violent Thunder's reputation wasn't good either, and killing people was a common occurrence. Therefore, when the other people in the Resurrection Point heard that someone was killed by Heart of Violent Thunder, not only did they not admit defeat, they even dared to curse. Therefore, they all turned their heads to see which hero had such courage. After seeing the emblem of Unity Alliance, everyone immediately understood. So it was Unity Alliance that it made sense. This was because everyone knew that no matter how strong Heart of Violent Thunder was, no matter how bad his temper was, the number one expert was still not him, but Thought Luyan of Unity Alliance. Since ancient times, players had always been interested in watching a good show. Seeing this kind of gossip, they naturally wanted to gossip about it. Is Unity Alliance going to fight to the death with Violent Sky Law? Are you serious? The two guilds usually don't have any conflicts. It's true, I just met someone from Unity Alliance at the Resurrection Point. I think they were killed by World of Violent Thunder. Damn, this is going to be interesting again. Compared to the real world, there were forums, voice transmissions, and loudspeakers used to cheat money in the game. Therefore, the speed at which news spread was dizzying. Not long after Wang Yu left the tavern, the news had already reached Fish Watching Underwater. What happened? Are the rumors true? Fish Watching Underwater asked strangely in the guild channel. It's true. We were leveling when Heart of Violent Thunder came to the leveling area and attacked us. He relied on his good equipment and killed us all. I said compassion. At the same time, I didn't forget to find a reason for my failure. I said that others had good equipment, not me. Fuck, he's clearly looking for trouble. We can't tolerate this. Fish Watching Underwater had been the guild leader for so many years and naturally knew how to win people's hearts. Although Fish Watching Underwater didn't dare to cause trouble at this time, he had to teach them a lesson. Luyan, go talk to Heart of Violent Thunder. Let him understand that our Unity Alliance isn't to be trifled with. Thought Luyan. Thought Luyan was actually next to Fish Watching Underwater, but to express his stance, Fish Watching Underwater circled Thought Luyan. It could be seen that this person was very good at manipulating people. As expected, he used to be the guild leader of a big guild. Just scare him a little, try not to kill him. This is the early stage of the game. We will be at a disadvantage if we fight. After expressing his stance in the guild channel, Fish Watching Underwater exited the channel and said to Thought Luyan. Thought Luyan nodded. I know what to do. Finding someone to fight Heart of Violent Thunder. I had to say, Fish Watching Underwater did a great job. He could win people's hearts and avoid conflict. However, everything was afraid of a traitor, especially when it came to guilds. They had 300 to 500 people, or even 1,000 people. Planting a traitor was unavoidable. Violent Heavenly Punishment had been on guard against Unity Alliance for a long time. So before this, he had planted his own people in Unity Alliance. Right after Fish Watching Underwater told Thought Luyan to cause trouble for Heart of Violent Thunder, Violent Heavenly Punishment's leader, Violent Thunder God, received a chat screenshot from the traitor. When Violent Thunder God received the message, he didn't relax. He smiled and said, Fish Watching Underwater isn't stupid. Thought Luyan won't actually attack. Sigh, this Violent Thunder, I already told him not to be so arrogant. Now he's attracted that monster Thought Luyan. I'll tell him to be careful later. Closing the chat, Violent Thunder God sent a message to Heart of Violent Thunder. Violent Thunder, where are you? Leveling. Violent Thunder God wasn't surprised by Heart of Violent Thunder's answer. After all, this kid was a leveling maniac. I heard you killed someone again? Violent Thunder God asked. Heart of Violent Thunder said indifferently. There's always some bastard coming to cause trouble. Why? Did I cause trouble for you? It seemed that this kid really did kill someone. No, of course not. Violent Thunder God hurriedly said, the people you killed seem to be from Unity Alliance. Thought Luyan has already gone to find you. It's best if you hide for now. Chapter 245. Nian Luyan. Hearing this name, Raging Thunderheart's eyelids twitched. Although the game had only been open for less than 2 weeks, Raging Thunderheart had not seen Flowing Cloud before. However, Raging Thunderheart had heard of Flowing Cloud. It was said that this Grandmaster of Combat was extraordinarily powerful. When the game had just been launched and everyone was around level 10, Nian Luyan fought with the Unity Alliance. It was not difficult for him to fight against 20 mages alone. Later, he was tricked into joining the Unity Alliance by Watcher Underwater. The mage class had always been OP. As the saying goes, a patch is a god, and a patch is a god. It could be seen how powerful the mage class was. Everyone knew what a Grandmaster of Combat was like at the beginning. They were weak-skinned and could be killed with one skill from a Thunder Mage. It was unimaginable that they could fight against 20 mages. Therefore, when Raging Thunderheart heard that Nian Luyan was coming to find him, he was slightly shocked. However, Raging Thunderheart was an expert who had killed countless people. It was not his style to be scared off by a single sentence. Come on, they say that he is the #1 expert of Thunderstorm City. I want to compete with him. Raging Thunderheart replied. As an expert of Thunderstorm City, he was always suppressed by Nian Luyan. Raging Thunderheart was still very dissatisfied. Then you have to be careful. I heard that kid is ruthless. Raging Thundergod said. Raging Thunderheart said, I know. Closing the message bar, Raging Thunderheart muttered to himself. Nian Luyan? Interesting. I also want to see what kind of person can be called the #1 expert. At the same time, Wang Yu had already left the city gate. Wang Yu did not recognize Raging Sky Law's guild badge. Along the way, he asked everyone he met, do you know where Raging Thunderheart is? Raging Thunderheart's popularity was not good. He went around killing people and stealing monsters. He was almost the scourge of Thunderstorm City. If it was not for Raging Sky Law's protection, no matter how strong he would only be exposed on the streets. Therefore, although everyone had a lot of opinions about Raging Thunderheart, they did not dare to say anything. Now, almost everyone in Thunderstorm City had heard the news that Heart of Violent Thunder had provoked the Unity Alliance. Now that they saw a Grandmaster of Combat asking for directions, of course, they were all eager to add insult to injury. Under the guidance of the players, Wang Yu arrived at the level 25-30 area. Mad Thunder's Heart was one of the few experts in the game. Naturally, he would not grind level 20 monsters. There weren't many players in the game who could fight monsters that were so many levels higher than them. Aside from the elite experts of the guilds, only the workshop's treasure hunting teams could survive here. At this moment, the number of people here could be counted with a single glance. Do you know where the Heart of Raging Thunder is? After arriving at the level 25-30 training area, Wang Yu grabbed a passerby and asked. The passerby had wanted to throw a tantrum, but when he saw Wang Yu dressed like a Grandmaster of Combat and had his face covered, he immediately thought of Nian Luyan. Hence, the passerby pointed at a lone player who occupied a large wilderness in the distance and said, that person is thanks. Wang Yu cupped his hands at the passerby and hurriedly walked up. Seeing Wang Yu's gesture of cupping his hands, the passerby and his friends patted their chests and thought that it was a close call. It was said that Nian Luyan also liked to do this on normal days. Walking in front of Heart of Violent Thunder, Wang Yu went straight to the point and asked, are you Heart of Violent Thunder? Heart of Violent Thunder was shocked when he heard this. He raised his head and looked at Wang Yu, saying, Nian Luyan? Wang Yu did not answer, but said coldly, I'm going to kill you today to let you know who you can provoke and who you can't. Otherwise, let alone you, even the entire Sky Law Guild will not be able to survive in Thunderstorm City. This line was what Chun Xiang told Wang Yu to say. He had to be as arrogant as possible in order to provoke the two guilds into fighting. Heart of Violent Thunder said angrily, with just you? As he spoke, Heart of Violent Thunder waved the staff in his hand, and a bolt of lightning smashed towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu's collapsing fist rushed in front of Heart of Violent Thunder. Heart of Violent Thunder turned pale with fright and hurriedly waved his staff to smash Wang Yu. Wang Yu blocked the staff with his left arm and kicked down with his right foot, kicking Heart of Violent Thunder's calf. At the same time, his left elbow locked Heart of Violent Thunder's shoulder and his right elbow hit Heart of Violent Thunder's heart. Heart of Violent Thunder was beaten into white light on the spot. Wang Yu had always been one to kill people in a second. This time, in order to let Heart of Violent Thunder see the path of his fist clearly, he deliberately killed him in 2 moves. From the time Wang Yu arrived to the time he killed Heart of Violent Thunder, it was less than 20 seconds. The surrounding players were all stunned. It had to be known that even experts like them had to submit to Mad Thunderheart's tyranny in this area. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given up such a large leveling area. F***CK, is that for real? That's Heart of Violent Thunder, and he was killed so casually, the crowd said in shock. Casually, Wang Yu was speechless when he heard the player's words. This move, Elbow Strike, was a fierce close combat move in Bajiquan. It used both hands and feet to subdue the enemy in 1 move. If Thought Luyan heard the words casually, he would definitely chase after them. However, Wang Yu's evaluation of the players couldn't be refuted. After all, in the players' eyes, Wang Yu's 2 moves weren't system skills. At most, it was a normal attack. After killing Heart of Violent Thunder, Wang Yu quietly left, leaving behind a group of amazed players. At this time, Heart of Violent Thunder met the real Thought Luyan outside the resurrection point. Thought Luyan didn't know who Heart of Violent Thunder was. The common problem of martial arts practitioners was that their brains were a little unstable. At this moment, Thought Luyan was like Wang Yu, dragging a passerby to find Heart of Violent Thunder. Where is Heart of Violent Thunder? Do you know? Thought Luyan asked all the way to Heart of Violent Thunder's side. When Wang Yu killed Heart of Violent Thunder, he was masked. At this time, Heart of Violent Thunder was also confused when he saw Thought Luyan. He asked unhappily, "Who are you? Why are you looking for Heart of Violent Thunder?" Thought Luyan smiled and said, "I'm Thought Luyan F***CK your mother." Before Thought Luyan could finish speaking, Violent Thunder interrupted him with a roar. At the same time, he grabbed a bolt of lightning and threw it over. The same burst fist, the same elbow strike, and Heart of Violent Thunder was hit into the resurrection point for the 2nd time. Who is this person? His mouth is full of dirty words. How annoying. After killing someone, Thought Luyan was confused. Heart of Violent Thunder, who appeared in the resurrection point once again, completely exploded. He shouted in the guild channel, "Thunder God, I've been killed. Avenge me." The others in the guild were shocked. Who is it? How could it kill you? As the #1 expert in the guild, Heart of Violent Thunder's character was a little bad, but his strength was still very recognized. Thought Luyan, Heart of Violent Thunder said through gritted teeth. F***CK. Thought Luyan really want to find you? The people of Violent Sky Law more or less heard some rumors. Heart of Violent Thunder said, "And he killed me twice." This son of AB*TCH said that he would make Violent Sky Law unable to survive in Thunderstorm City. Damn, he's too arrogant. Chapter 246. Raging Thunderheart didn't know how to behave normally. Not only did he have a bad reputation in Thunderstorm City, he was also quite unsociable in the guild. Apart from dungeons, he never participated in any guild activities. Even in dungeons, he was often arrogant. If it wasn't for his strength, even Raging Thunder God wouldn't have liked him. Looking at the guild from the perspective of the members, no one would like someone who caused trouble everywhere and brought shame to the guild. Hence, when the guild members heard that Violent Thunderheart had been killed twice by Thought Luyan, not only did they not get angry, but they even took pleasure in Violent Thunderheart's misfortune. They inwardly thought that someone had finally beaten up a show-off. Even Violent Thunderheart's final words were ignored by everyone. When a person was enraged, there was an 80% chance that their words would be exaggerated. However, at this moment, someone in the guild sent another message. F***CK. We were leveling up when a Grandmaster of Combat suddenly appeared and killed us. Raging Thunder God's members were shocked. What kind of Grandmaster of Combat? The person who was killed said he was wearing a mask. We couldn't see his face clearly, and he didn't use any skills. With just a few punches and kicks, he instantly killed our entire team. He even said that he would make Raging Thunder God's name disappear. F***CK. It's Nian Liyun again. Everyone shouted in unison. Nian Liyun's killing methods were extremely familiar to the people of Thunderstorm City. He didn't use many skills, and his attacks were extremely ruthless. With just a few punches and kicks, he could take someone's life. This was all Nian Liyun's specialty. More importantly, other than Nian Liyun, there was no other Grandmaster of Combat in Thunderstorm City who could single-handedly destroy an entire team. F***CK, Unity Alliance is shitting on our heads. Raging Thunder God shouted angrily. Boss, don't you think your wording is a little disgusting? Someone reminded softly. If they want to bully, then bully. Can you all listen to the main point? What should we do if Unity Alliance is purposely looking for trouble? Raging Thunder God asked loudly in the guild channel. Of course we're going to beat them up. Everyone yelled. Raging Thunder God. One could tell just by looking at their name. Every one of them had a bad temper. As a #1 guild in Thunderstorm City, how could they be provoked so easily? Under Raging Thunder God's command, all the guild members who were leveling outside returned to the Iron Cliff Castle encampment and were teleported to the Thunderstorm City teleportation point. After arriving at Thunderstorm City, everyone immediately split into groups and ran to the leveling area outside the city. All the members who saw Unity Alliance players were killed without a second word. Before long, the guild channel of United Alliance was in a state of chaos. Raging Thunder Alliance. F***CK, what's going on? Mother F***Cur, this bunch of trash. They were the ones who started it, and now they dare to start again. Unreasonable. Using the word reasonable in the game, it seemed like this brother was the same as Wang Yu, a noob in the game. The guild channel was filled with chatter and chaos. Everyone wanted to form a group and face Raging Thunder God head-on. Underwater Watching Fish had a headache. He felt that there was something fishy going on, but he didn't know where to start. He could only ask Nian Liyun. Liyun, I told you to go talk to Raging Thunderheart. What did you do to him? I haven't found him yet. Nian Liyun's conversational skills were out of this world. One sentence was enough to make Underwater Watching Fish speechless. How was that possible? Right now, Raging Thunder God is killing our people. Underwater Watching Fish said anxiously. Originally, Underwater Watching Fish had planned to let Nian Liyun talk to Raging Thunderheart. At most, he could teach Raging Thunderheart a lesson. Everyone in Thunderstorm City had witnessed Raging Thunderheart's character. With Raging Thunder God's personality, the most he would do was to comfort Nian Liyun verbally. There was no way Raging Thunder God would cause such a huge ruckus. However, why was the situation different from what he had expected? Aside from Thought Liyun, Unity Alliance did not have many capable experts. Meanwhile, Divine Wrath's Berserk class advancement experts outnumbered even the elite members of Unity Alliance. If Unity Alliance clashed head-on with Divine Wrath, only death would await them. However, in the face of the rage of so many of Unity Alliance's brothers, even wise fish underwater did not dare to say no. After all, Unity Alliance did not have a guild encampment. If a member died, they would at most lose experience. However, if they lost their morale, they would not be able to regain it. Oh, right. When I was looking for Raging Thunderheart, I met a mage. When he heard my name, he attacked me. He was a player from Raging Thunder God, Nian Liyun said. What did he look like? As a guild leader, Nian Liyun had once tried to recruit Raging Thunderheart. Not only had she failed, but she had also been looked down upon. However, she did remember Raging Thunderheart's appearance. Nian Liyun said he wasn't tall. He looked quite wretched. Crap, that's Raging Thunder God. Underwater Watching Fish shouted. What did you do to him? Of course I'm going to kill him. Nian Liyun's words were filled with a ruthlessness that would not offend others if they did not offend him. Damn, you're ruthless. Forget it. Since things have come to this, we can only fight. Underwater Watching Fish sighed. Since someone had already died, this matter would not be easily resolved. If they surrendered now, not only would the players of Unity Alliance fall apart, but Raging Thunder God would also demand a lot more compensation. In the game, only those with sufficient strength had the right to speak at the negotiation table. In any case, the United Hearts Alliance had nothing to lose. If the difference in strength wasn't too great, they would fight to the death against a group of fearless players. Berserk Heavenly Punishment wouldn't fare any better than this group of fearless players. Although this matter was caused by Nian Luyun, Underwater Watching Fish did not dare to reprimand Nian Luyun. This was because Underwater Watching Fish was a smart person. He understood Nian Luyun's value and strength. This kind of person needed to be praised. Only by listening to his words could they win him over. Otherwise, it would be a bigger nightmare to make an enemy of such an expert. Everyone gather. We're going to counterattack. Watching Fish under the water's command, One Heart Alliance's blood was boiling. No one wanted to be bullied in a game. Even if Sky Law Berserk's players far surpassed them in terms of quantity and quality, they weren't willing to give in. After all, if they didn't work hard, how would they know what a spare was? Unity Alliance had close to 500 people, while Raging Thunder God had close to 1,000. With hundreds and thousands of people gathered together, the scene was quite grand. These two guilds appeared at the teleportation point one after the other, causing the spectating players in Thunderstorm City to choke with excitement. At this time, Spring Soar, who was standing at the highest point of Thunderstorm City, looked down. After seeing the two guilds gather, he smiled and sent a message to Wang Yu and Ming Du. Good job. It's time to close the net. Chapter 247. At this time, Thunderstorm City was filled with people from the two major guilds. Wang Yu and Ming Du had met the people from the two major guilds before. If they returned to the city now, they would definitely be recognized. Thus, they agreed to wait for Chun Xiang on the road to Iron Rock Castle. The battle between the two major guilds was getting more and more intense. The gates of Thunderstorm City were already sealed, and no one was allowed to pass. However, this was not a problem for Chun Xiang. Chun Xiang turned into a cloud of mist and floated out of the city. When they arrived at the agreed location, Wang Yu and Ming Du had already arrived. Hurry up, we don't have much time, Chun Xiang said. What? Wang Yu and Ming Du were a bit confused. If they start fighting, won't it take a day and a night? I know Fish Watcher Underwater very well. At this time, he definitely has no intention of fighting head-on. The reason why Unity Alliance can fight with Sky Law Berserk is because they have no other choice. Chun Xiang said. Then how much time do we have? Wang Yu asked. At most an hour. Wang Yu asked gloomily. Damn. Then why didn't you just find another guild from the start? Chun Xiang said. Unity Alliance only has Thought-Flowing Cloud to be able to fight against Sky Law Berserk. If it was another guild, they probably wouldn't even be able to last half an hour. They might even surrender without a fight. Besides, I know Fish Watcher Underwater better, so it's easier to scheme against him. I think Fish Watcher Underwater is not a bad person. Why do you guys have such a big grudge against him? Wang Yu asked curiously. Fish Watcher Underwater was a bit hostile towards Ming Du and Chun Xiang, but he was still very polite towards Wang Yu. Ming Du scolded angrily. Not bad, my ass. The first guild leader of Chuanjin left the game because of him. He's already lucky that we didn't kill him. This bastard, when we get back, we'll call Wuji and beat him up again. Looking at Mingdu's tone, it seemed that Chuanjin and Fish Watcher Underwater really had a big grudge. Iron Rock Castle was located at the foot of Thunderstorm City, not far west of the mountain range. The three of them chatted as they walked, and soon they arrived in front of the legendary fortress. Just as the rumors said, the Iron Rock Castle stood majestically on the main road between the two factions. The entire castle was constructed entirely of hard black rock, and the surface of the black rock was enchanted with a strengthening spell. Its hardness could withstand any kind of magic. From afar, the Iron Cliff Castle looked like a mountain, giving people a feeling of indestructibility. It's really not easy to take down this kind of stronghold. Chun Xiang secretly clicked his tongue. There were two ways to obtain a guild residence. The first way was to establish a base in a leveling area. Once the base had withstood the attacks of the natives, they would obtain a guild residence. The other way was to attack the original stronghold. After accepting the siege quest, they would organize guild players to break through the stronghold's gate, and the stronghold would become the guild's residence. The Iron Rock Castle had stood here since ancient times. So if Berserk Sky Law's people could use the Ironrock Castle as a residence, they would definitely choose the second method. A residence that was built by oneself could be upgraded through quests, but a residence that was attacked couldn't. Moreover, if the gate was broken through by other guilds, they would need to find craftsmen in the city to repair it, which would cost a lot of money. Therefore, most players preferred to build their own residences. Of course, for a super stronghold like the Ironrock Castle, whose technology tree and defense were already top-notch, it was estimated that from now until the game closed, there would be no players' residences that could compare to it. Mingdu said, "The Ironrock Castle is the base of the human army. Berserk Sky Law obtained this residence by completing a quest and didn't attack it. Because of this, the real defense of this Ironrock Castle is actually far from the original." So that's how it is. Chun Xiang nodded his head. Just now, Chun Xiang was still thinking that if someone built a castle like this in the game, wouldn't they already be in an invincible position? It seemed like the system wouldn't allow anyone to break the game's balance. "How do we enter now?" Wang Yu asked Mingdu. Currently, the gates of the Ironrock Castle were tightly shut. If they forcefully opened the gates, the system would definitely notify them that a guild had invaded. This was something that Chun Xiang had already explained before they came. "Follow me." As he said this, Mingdu took out a palm-sized map and then led Wang Yu and Chun Xiang around the main gate, arriving at the corner of the Ironrock Castle. Mingdu walked to the side of a large rock and then took out a gem and embedded it. The rock moved to the side, revealing a secret passage. This is a secret passage that Mage Ryan discovered. It can directly lead to the interior of the Ironrock Castle. Mingdu said, "Since there's a secret passage, why are you so troubled?" Chun Xiang asked in confusion. Mingdu explained, "This isn't just a secret passage, it's also a PvP instance dungeon. All players in the Ironrock Castle will automatically be placed on the opposite side of our party. Then you're really unlucky. You must have been chased quite a bit." Chun Xiang said sympathetically. "I died once." Mingdu said, "Once you enter this dungeon, you can't leave on the spot. You can only leave through the exit." No wonder. Wang Yu and Chun Xiang nodded their heads. After entering the dungeon, there would be an exit option, which allowed players to leave the dungeon on the spot. If they could only leave through the exit, no matter how strong Mingdu was, he wouldn't be able to stop so many people from going berserk. All right, there's not much time left. Let's quickly enter the dungeon. After understanding the rules of this dungeon, the three of them directly entered the secret passage. After entering the secret passage, the scenery changed, and they arrived at the interior of the Ironrock Castle. Inside the Ironrock Castle, there was a bustling scene. Gnomes, and dwarves, the three legendary races were all here. Moreover, the various types of technology were exactly the same as the legendary Ironrock Castle. Seeing this scene, both Wang Yu and Chun Xiang were stunned. Chun Xiang exclaimed, "Damn, this is a scenario dungeon." The scenario was commonly seen in online games. It was to enter a memory dungeon and play the role of a certain person to complete a certain quest. Yes, Mingdu nodded his head and said, "These are all scenarios. It's not the current scene, it's a projection from before the war between races." Just as Mingdu finished speaking, Wang Yu received a system notification. System notification. You have entered a special scenario. You will play the role of Hermit Semel and help the King of Dwarves defeat the Gnome Lord and Gnome Leader. Final reward. Simba's Ruler. Quest notification. This quest is a guild expedition quest. Before leaving the dungeon, all quest rewards and items will be dropped upon death. Current enemy guild players. 0 after receiving the quest. Wang Yu's body transformed into the appearance of a thin and weak fighter. Mingdu and Chun Xiang also changed their appearances. Chun Xiang became a tall and thin man wearing a black and white cloak, while Mingdu became a pot-bellied, blue-robed wizard. Chapter 248. Seeing that everyone had changed, the three of them hurriedly shared the quest. Then, the three of them cursed the system for being a scammer. This instance dungeon was a guild expedition quest. Strictly speaking, Wang Yu, Mingdu, and Chun Xiang were actually on the same side. However, this quest was truly a collision quest. Mingdu transformed into rain and helped the Goblin Lord defeat the Dwarf King and the Gnome Leader. Chun Xiang transformed into a druid and helped the infused leader defeat the Dwarf King and the Gnome Lord. The three of them were originally on the same side, but now they had become enemies. What was even more puzzling was that this was a competition between the three of them. Why did the people from Sky Law Berserk have to forcefully interfere? What should we do? Should we really play rock, paper, scissors? Chun Xiang suggested. There could only be one winner of this quest. Instead of killing each other, it was better to work together and help one of them. Chun Xiang's quest was a hidden class advancement quest. In terms of rewards, the other two's quests were actually not as good as Chun Xiang's. Therefore, it was most suitable to give the quest to Chun Xiang. After all, with their relationship with Chuanjin, if Chun Xiang asked Wang Yu and Wang Yu to give up their quest, the two of them would definitely not refuse. Chun Xiang took the initiative to suggest this. The main reason was that if he forced the two of them to give up their quest because of his generous rewards, he would feel very sorry for the two of them. After all, the hidden class was also very powerful, and Wang Yu's quest was bought with a large sum of money. Forget it. I was just joking. Let's give the quest to Brother Chun. As for the hidden class, Brother Chun can just give us some compensation when the time comes. What do you think, Iron Ox? Mingdu said very magnanimously. I feel like this quest isn't right. Wang Yu frowned. Tell me what's wrong. Chun Xiang asked. Wang Yu said, since our opposing faction is Sky Law Berserk, then we must be on the same side, right? Chun Xiang nodded and said, yes, in theory, yes. Then, the mission didn't say that we have to be enemies, right? Wang Yu asked again. Mingdu said, not literally, but isn't the meaning obvious? Asking each of us to help one of them defeat the other two, doesn't that make us enemies? If that's the case, then there's no point in the system summoning the Berserk Divine Wrath. More importantly, our goal is to defeat the other two. In other words, defeating these three NPCs is our goal, Wang Yu explained. Holy shit, it can't be. You can do that? Mingdu was shocked. Mingdu had dealt with intelligent NPCs before, but he had never played word games with the system. I think what Iron Ox said makes sense. Chun Xiang said, the system can't possibly make enemies out of people in the same faction. Otherwise, it could just divide them into 4 factions. Besides, does your mission have a failure condition? There isn't. Mingdu shook his head. Dungeon missions usually had a failure condition, especially for this kind of scenario dungeon. The failure condition had to be clearly stated. Seeing that Mingdu was skeptical, Wang Yu simply said, since we're enemies, we'll kill Brother Chun's quest target first. If we don't fail after Brother Chun's quest is completed, then my idea is definitely correct. When that time comes, we'll just kill the last one. Okay, let's do that. Mingdu nodded. Chun Xiang also followed and said, okay, let's do as Iron Ox says. Wang Yu's suggestion was also biased towards Chun Xiang, but since it had already been said, if Chun Xiang still refused, it would seem a bit pretentious. Mingdu had done this quest before, so he was familiar with the process. He brought Wang Yu and Chun Xiang around a few buildings and arrived in front of the conference hall. Once we enter the conference hall, Berserk Heavenly Punishment will receive a notification, so we have to be quick. As he said this, Mingdu pushed open the door and walked in. Wang Yu and Chun Xiang followed closely behind. After entering the conference hall, the three of them saw 3 NPCs in the middle of a huge argument. The smell of gunpowder was very strong, and they looked like they were about to start a fight. At the same time, Berserk Heavenly Punishment, who were in the middle of fighting with Heart Alliance, suddenly received a guild notification. Your guild has been activated. Iron Rock Castle Sealed Soul quest. Please return to the encampment immediately and prevent the seal from being broken. F***CK. Seeing this notification, Berserk Heavenly Punishment felt as if someone had poured cold water over their heads. They suddenly shivered and cursed. It's that bitch again. She's actually activating a quest at this time. Today, Mingdu had tormented Berserk Heavenly Punishment quite a bit. It was only after the last Berserk Heavenly Punishment was killed that they stopped for a while. Berserk Heavenly Punishment thought that Mingdu had retreated in the face of difficulty. Who would have thought that he would actually sneak in again at this time? However, at this time, everyone was busy fighting. The resurrection point in the city was also surrounded by players. Wanting to stop the battle and return to the encampment at this time was not something that could be done easily. "Boss, what should we do?" After receiving the notification, Berserk Heavenly Punishment asked Thunder God for his opinion. Berserk Heavenly Punishment was the one who started this guild war. If they ended it anticlimactic, Berserk Heavenly Punishment would definitely be the one to lose face. However, their nest was being ambushed, so they could not just ignore it. "That brat is alone. He won't be able to break the seal in a short time. Let's send some people back to the encampment first," Thunder God said. "2 squads should be enough. That's enough. He's only one person. No matter how fast he runs, it's useless," Thunder God said. Berserk Heavenly Punishment had fought against Mingdu before. At that time, Mingdu did not have the opportunity to fight back. He only cared about charging out. Therefore, Berserk Heavenly Punishment's people did not have a good understanding of Mingdu's strength. They only thought that this fellow only knew how to run away. Little did they know, this time, Mingdu had called for 2 helpers in the conference room of Arnra Castle. The 3 leaders who were arguing immediately stopped when they saw Wang Yu's group of 3 enter. The Dwarf King walked up to Wang Yu and said, "My friend, you've come at the right time. These 2 despicable worms actually dare to look down on the descendants of the great war god. Can you help me squash them to death?" This dwarf was not very big, but his tone was not small. He spoke as if the other 2 were ants. The gnome and gnome also walked up to Mingdu and Chun Xiang and made the same request. The 3 looked at each other and used Detect on the 3 NPCs. Dwarf King, 21, Silver Boss, Elite, HP, 200000 MP, 5000 skills. Thunder Hammer, Power of Storm Gnome Lord, 21, Silver Boss, Elite, HP, 150000 MP, 15,000 skills. Flame Shot, Voltage Overload Gnome Leader, 21, Silver Boss, Elite, HP, 100000 MP, 20,000. Chapter 249. Genius 1 Second. Remember if you want to go. Showa Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. The attributes of the 3 bosses were very average. Their levels were also set according to the highest level of the party, Wang Yu. It was clear that the most difficult part of this quest was not these 3 bosses. If Chun Xiang hadn't arranged for Berserk Heavenly Punishment and Heart Alliance to fight each other, the 3 of them would have to face at least 500 players. With such a huge faction gap, if the boss was set to be overpowered, would anyone even be able to play the game? At this time, faced with the request of the 3 bosses, Mingdu asked, "I can help you, but are there any benefits?" Wang Yu exclaimed, "Tis TSK, as expected of Mingdu. Taking advantage of someone else's misfortune is so easy." Hearing Mingdu's words, the Gnome Lord was dazed for a moment before replying, "Great Sir Ryan, when you were helping us fight against the Dark Army back then, you left behind a notebook. I kept it and modified the magic of the opposite side. If you can eliminate these 2 bugs, I am willing to give you the notebook." Hearing the Goblin Lord's words, Wang Yu and Chun Xiang stared at the Dwarf King and the Gnome Leader. The 2 bosses had probably never been stared at like this before. They only felt a tingling sensation on their backs. "I also have a notebook that contains some improvements to summoning spells. I'm willing to give you the divine weapon left behind by the craftsman god." The Dwarf Leader and the Dwarf King declared that as long as they could get rid of the other party, they would give them whatever they wanted. These 3 little guys weren't like idiots. The things they did were really baffling. Love, go, small, say, Netku. Following that, Chun Xiang said something that made Wang Yu admire him from the bottom of his heart. Chun Xiang said, "I'm afraid you're lying to me. Can you give me the item first?" Lien Mingdu was shocked to the extreme by Chun Xiang's words. Sure enough, the older the ginger, the spicier. Wang Yu felt that Mingdu's behavior of taking advantage of a burning house was shameless enough. He didn't expect Chun Xiang to take the initiative to bluff him. How wretched was this person's personality to be able to trick even the boss? That's against the rules. The pygmy leader said hesitantly. I actually have a good relationship with these two brothers. Chun Xiang pointed at Wang Yu and Ming Du. The gnome leader was indeed an intelligent boss. He immediately understood Chun Xiang's threat. He reluctantly took out a stack of paper and handed it to Chun Xiang. F***CK. Chun Xiang took the draft paper and looked at it. He cursed and threw it into his bag. Wang Yu and Ming Du received the items from the Dwarf King and Goblin Overlord. Simba's Ruler. Rare item. Quest item. Activate after helping the Dwarf King defeat the Goblin Lord 0-1 and the Gnome Leader 0-1. It seemed that there was indeed a mountain higher than the one before. Compared to the wretched system god, Chun Xiang was still slightly inferior. Love, go small, say, Netka. However, the introduction of the quest item made Wang Yu even more certain of his thoughts. As long as they killed these 3 bosses, the quest for the 3 of them would be completed. I've given you the items. Now help me kill them. Since the quest item was given in advance, the bosses spoke confidently and with a commanding tone. Okay, Wang Yu replied and dashed towards the Goblin Lord. Chun Xiang summoned a demon and threw out clouds of poisonous fog. See? The Goblin Lord's arms shook, and a circle of lightning appeared on its body. Chun Xiang's 6 demons lost half of their HP. Then, the Goblin Lord took out a gun and aimed at Chun Xiang. F***CK. Such strong magic damage. Chun Xiang was shocked. Before the Imp's summon skill was assimilated, the Imp's HP was similar to Chun Xiang's. Now, the assimilated demon's HP was much higher than Chun Xiang's. If the Goblin Lord's AoE skill was so powerful, a single target skill could probably kill Chun Xiang. Realizing this, Chun Xiang hurriedly walked in a Z shape in a flirtatious manner. At this moment, Wang Yu had already dashed in front of the Goblin Lord. He grabbed the Goblin Lord's neck and hooked one of his legs on the Goblin Lord's calf. The Goblin Lord was only a level 21 intelligence type boss. Its body was relatively weak. Wang Yu's move easily threw the Goblin Lord to the ground. Then, Wang Yu stepped on it and hammered it. Seeing that Wang Yu had captured a boss, Ming Du and Chun Xiang turned their attention to the Dwarf King. The Dwarf King had thick HP and was extremely strong. Even Wang Yu had to dodge and fight against this kind of strength-type boss. However, Chun Xiang and Ming Du dealt with it easily. Chun Xiang threw poison to reduce the Dwarf King's speed. He controlled the Dwarf King like a grandchild while Ming Du threw skills at him. Ming Du's damage was comparable to Wang Yu's. As a warrior, the Dwarf King's magic resistance was obviously not very high. Under the torture of Ming Du and Chun Xiang, it was on the verge of death. They didn't know what the system's aggro setting was. Just as the other 2 bosses were about to be killed, the gnome leader, who had been watching from the side, seemed to have realized that these 3 bad guys wanted to kill all of them. So, the gnome leader screamed, took out an aircraft, and sat on it. With a whoosh, it flew to the roof and surrounded the 3 of them and started shooting. This gnome leader was an agility-type boss. It didn't have high attack or strength, but its skills were much more disgusting than the other 2. This guy flew the aircraft around the house. It swooped, rose, and hovered. Its skills were even better than a pilot's. While doing these stunts, the gnome leader didn't forget to throw things on the ground. The things that the gnome leader threw were black, and when they fell to the ground, they turned into mechanical warriors. These mechanical warriors all had around 10,000 HP and high defense. Although their attacks were a little slow, they had a dizzy effect. Other than annoying and disgusting, there was no other word to describe them. Kill the Gnome Lord first. Chun Xiang threw out a distortion barrier, controlling the mechanical warriors in place, and then threw a toxic nova on the Gnome Lord. Ming Du had a thunder spear in his left hand and a lightning bolt in his right. Together with Wang Yu's fists and legs, the Gnome Lord was beaten to death in a few hits. Oldly, how was it? Did you fail the mission? After killing the Gnome Lord, Chun Xiang asked Ming Du. No. Ming Du was surprised. That's good. Then kill the Dwarf King. The boxing glove in Wang Yu's hand turned into a long staff. He used it on the ground and flew over the mechanical warriors' heads. Thunderstep followed by Eagle Step for kicks in a row, and the Dwarf King's body swayed. The Dwarf King roared and swung his hammer to hit Wang Yu. Wang Yu used his staff to hit the back of the Dwarf King's neck and used the force to retreat. Chun Xiang's distortion barrier rose under the Dwarf King's feet. Mingdu's lightning bolt, arcane impact. All the skills came at once, and the Dwarf King was killed on the spot. Suddenly, a message flashed in front of the three of them. System notification. The enemy camp has joined the battlefield. There are currently 40 people. Chapter 250. Recommended reading. How is it so fast? The three were shocked when they saw the system notification. They quickly targeted the gnome leader who was flying in the air. They had thought that Unity Alliance would be able to hold off Berserk Heavenly Wrath for a while, but it seemed that Unity Alliance was still lacking compared to Berserk Heavenly Wrath. Now that there was only one boss left, they could not let their efforts go to waste. Wang Yu disliked agility-based bosses the most. Moreover, it was difficult for a Grandmaster combat to deal with a boss in the sky. Although the gnome chieftain only had 100,000 HP, its maneuverability was simply too high. Bright City and Spring Grace had no way of catching up to it. Just think about it. How could a non-agility-based class like mages and warlocks possibly keep up with a gnome chieftain's speed? Moreover, the gnome leader was an agility-based boss that attacked from above. Its attack range was over 1,000 yards. Unless the gnome leader was in a diving state, Bright Doe and Spring Source skills would not be able to reach the gnome leader. Fortunately, the conference room was not big. Otherwise, no one would be able to stop the gnome leader if it wanted to leave. When they killed the Dwarf King, the three discovered that there was a condition for the gnome leader to dive. Every time the gnome leader dived, it would summon 6 mechanical warriors. It would only dive again when all the mechanical warriors were destroyed. As such, the three could only avoid the gnome leader's harassment in the sky and control the mechanical warriors. These mechanical warriors had thick skin and flesh. Mingdu and Chun Xiang's 3 AoE skills were still able to withstand them. No matter how strong Wang Yu was, a Grandmaster of Combat could not use AoE skills. After the three killed 2 mechanical warriors, the door to the conference room opened and a group of Berserk Heavenly Wrath players rushed in. The leader of this party of players was Berserk Heavenly Punishment's second-in-command. His name was Berserk Thunder Emperor. Just from his name, one could tell that Berserk Thunder Emperor was a good friend of Berserk Thunder God in real life. As a trusted aide of the guild leader, this person enjoyed the best resources in the guild. His strength was not much weaker than Berserk Thunderheart. Berserk Heavenly Wrath was scared out of his wits when he saw the scene in the conference room. Ignore the Grandmaster of Combat. Hurry up and stop the Warlock and Magician. The Berserk Thunder Emperor commanded, and the Berserk Heavenly Punishments party quickly formed a formation and rushed towards the 3 people fighting the boss. The 3 of them were spread out. Since Grandmasters of Combat had short arms, they weren't much of a threat to this boss. Moreover, Grandmasters of Combat weren't very useful in team battles, so Heavenly Punishment Berserk split into 2 teams. One team rushed towards Mingdu, while the other rushed towards Chun Xiang. Seeing Tian Fa's people rush over, Chun Xiang took a step back. He freed up his hands and summoned 6 evil demons to stand in a row, blocking everyone. Mingdu threw a hellfire at the intersection, and the Berserk Sky Law members were forced to retreat. Summoning is an AoE spell. Everyone, don't charge. Seeing Mingdu and Chun Xiang's methods, the Berserk Tian Fa people quickly calmed down. Of these 2, one knew crowd control, the other knew AoE spells, and there were 6 evil demons acting as meat shields. When these 2 teamed up, they could control, attack, and even resist. There were stairs in Iron Rock Castle's conference room. At this moment, Chuanjin's group of 3 were standing at a relatively high position. If they were to really fight, they wouldn't have the advantage. Of course, this didn't mean that Heavenly Punishment's magicians were trash, but rather that Heavenly Punishment's members were all elite experts. They also had the pride of an expert. With 40 against 3, if they couldn't wipe the team without taking any damage, they wouldn't have the advantage. We'll attract their firepower. Thieves go into stealth and stab them to death. Berserk Heavenly Wrath thought for a moment, then said to everyone in the guild channel. Currently, magicians only had around 800 HP. Cloth armor classes didn't have high HP growth, and warlocks who put their points in a constitution only had 1600 HP. Thieves were the nightmare of squishy classes. When their combo burst out, it would at least be around 1500 HP. With 6 thieves stabbing 2 cloth armor classes to death, no matter how you looked at it, it was absolutely safe. Okay, after receiving the order, the thief quickly went into stealth. As usual, the others rushed in front of Mingdu and Chun Xiang. 6 shield bearers, 20 magicians, 4 warlocks, and 4 priests? Isn't that 40 people? Chun Xiang was very sensitive to numbers. With a quick glance, he immediately noticed that Heavenly Punishment's team was missing 6 people. They're here. Wang Yu, who was not far away, shot in front of Mingdu and Chun Xiang, his staff blocking the way. Heavenly Punishment's players were still puzzled. What the hell was this kid doing? They saw Wang Yu's hand shake and his staff swing out, revealing the 6 assassins. Everyone was shocked when they saw this, and they all turned to look at Wang Yu. Damn, he's an expert that knows how to use stealth. The 6 assassins were confident in their numbers. Even without stealth, they weren't afraid of Wang Yu. They brandished their daggers and attacked Wang Yu. Hurry up and come back. Don't get controlled by the warlock. The 6 assassins were currently in Chun Xiang's attack range. As long as Chun Xiang used distortion, the 6 of them would definitely be frozen. If Mingdu used an AoE spell, they would definitely be finished. It had to be known that thieves didn't have a lot of HP. However, Chun Xiang and Mingdu acted as if they didn't see it and turned around, continuing to attack the mech warriors. Seeing that the 2 of them didn't care about Wang Yu, Heavenly Punishment happily said, "These 2 don't seem to have any strategic sense." Before Heavenly Punishment could finish speaking, the remaining half of his words were stuffed back into his mouth. Facing the attacks of the 6 assassins, Wang Yu didn't dodge. He reached out with both hands, one on the left and one on the right, grabbing the throats of 2 of them. He then swung his arms and used Ferocious Tiger Strike, throwing the 2 of them onto the other 4. The 6 of them crashed into each other and were smashed into a ball. Following that, Wang Yu jumped up and landed with Thunderstomp. Boom! In less than 5 seconds, the 6 thieves had passed away. Damn it, it's Nian Luyan. Seeing this scene, Heavenly Punishment's people's hair stood on end. The members of the Berserk Guild had seen Mingdu in Rain's disguise, so they knew that the 3 players in front of them were actually NPCs. Hence, they had been trying to figure out which expert had dared to provoke the Berserk Guild again and again. Now that they saw Wang Yu kill 6 thieves in a matter of minutes, they immediately thought of Thunderstorm City's #1 expert. In Thunderstorm City, Nian Luyan was a legend. It was said that this Grandmaster of Combat was like a cheat, fighting 20 people at once without any difficulty. Initially, Berserk Thunder Emperor and the others had always thought that someone was exaggerating. But after witnessing it today, Berserk Thunder Emperor realized that this Grandmaster of Combat was even more insane than the rumors made him out to be. Not only was it easy for this guy to take on 20 people, but even if 40 people stood together, he would not feel safe at all. While he was distracted, Wang Yu had already rushed to the front of the team. Heavenly Punishment's people were shocked and hurriedly sent a message in the guild channel. "Thunder God, come back quickly. Nian Luyan is attacking us. We can't stop him. P.S. I'm going to have a meal. I've been so troubled recently, I've stopped updating once, so my subscriptions have decreased quite a bit. Everyone, please subscribe more. To give me a tip, To be continued. Chapter 251. Reeks, Thought-Flowing Cloud. Thunder God felt his teeth ache when he heard Thunder Emperor's words. The main reason why Thunder God was afraid of the United Heart Alliance was because of this person. Is he reliable? Thunder God asked. He killed 6 assassins in 1 round. Do you think he's reliable? Thunder God retorted. In any case, Thunder God had never heard of a Grandmaster of Combat stronger than Thought-Flowing Cloud in Thunderstorm City. Damn, It really is him. Thunder God said anxiously. You guys hold on. I'll bring people back to support. Thunder God said, hurry up. We might not be able to hold on. His two helpers are also very strong. The mage has AoE skills. How's the seal? Two have been broken. There's still a gnome flying in the sky, but he probably won't be able to hold on for long. That warlock's crowd control is very high. Thunder God said, F*CK. Everyone retreat and return to the guild. We can't let the seal break. Thunder God immediately gave the order to retreat in the channel. It was embarrassing to suddenly retreat at this time, but compared to the guild encampment, it wasn't a big deal. Berserk Heavenly Punishment's players were very disciplined. After receiving Thunder God's order, they immediately chose to retreat. Seeing Berserk Heavenly Punishment retreat, the United Heart Alliance players were about to follow up with another attack, but were stopped by watching fish underwater. Don't chase a cornered enemy. It's enough that they know how powerful we are. There's no need to kill them all. Hearing watching fish underwater's words, the United Heart Alliance players were somewhat unwilling, but they gave up on the idea of chasing. After all, it was still the early stages of the game. Battles should be avoided if possible. Moreover, the United Heart Alliance didn't benefit from the previous group battle. Berserk Heavenly Punishment's sudden retreat was definitely a trap. Watching fish underwater didn't think so, because he didn't want to offend Berserk Heavenly Punishment too much from the start. Originally, watching fish underwater was panicking as the United Heart Alliance retreated. Now that he saw Berserk Heavenly Punishment's people retreat, he didn't want to rush forward and die. At the same time, in the Iron Rock Castle Conference Hall, Berserk Heavenly Punishment's people were stunned for a moment before Wang Yu rushed to the front of the formation. The warlock waved his staff, and 4 circles appeared under Wang Yu's feet. At the same time, the shield warrior raised his shield and activated charge. Wang Yu knew that the 4 circles were the prelude to the distortion barrier. In the blink of an eye, he leaped onto the heads of the shield bearers. The shield bearers hurriedly canceled their skills and raised their shields to use shield bash. Wang Yu, who was in midair, hit the shield of the shield warrior with a chi wave. With the recoil, he rose another meter. At this time, the spells of the mages were flying towards him. Wang Yu descended with eagle step. When he was half a meter above the ground, a long staff suddenly appeared in Wang Yu's hand. He used it as a support and flew close to the ground into the mage formation. Fuck me, fuck me. The Berserk Tion FA team was in complete disarray. He couldn't even hit the target. Did he really not have a cheat code? When a mage was approached, their first reaction would naturally be to retreat. However, when it came to Wang Yu, they didn't even have the chance to retreat. The shadow of Wang Yu's staff danced in the air, twisting and dragging, twisting left and right. The staff in his hand was like a dragon, leaving no survivors wherever it went. The mages only saw a black shadow before it appeared at the resurrection point of the guild. The mages who were killed by Wang Yu were shocked and puzzled. I've never heard of Nian Luyan using a staff. At this time, Mingdu and Chun Xiang had already wiped out the mech warriors. The gnome leader in the sky let out a strange cry and dove down. Wang. The moment the gnome leader flew above the two, Mingdu stabbed his face with a thunder spear. The thunder spear had a knockback effect. When the gnome leader was hit, the entire aircraft shook and suddenly fell. At the same time, Chun Xiang's distortion barrier appeared, and the aircraft crashed into it. Boom! The plane that was moving at high speed crashed into the barrier and exploded. The gnome leader bounced out of his seat at the critical moment. Damn, this is godly prediction. Seeing this scene, the Berserk Thunder Emperor's eyeballs almost popped out. The strength of Nian Luyun was not a secret in Thunderstorm City, so the Berserk Thunder Emperor was prepared. However, the strength displayed by Ming Do and Chun Xiang caused the Berserk Thunder Emperor to be a little overwhelmed. The gnome leader's flying speed was very fast, and when it dove, its speed doubled. The Thunder Spear in Ming Du's hands was clearly a non-directional skill. For a non-directional skill to be able to accurately hit the high-speed gnome leader, his prediction ability was truly terrifying. What made the Berserk Thunder Emperor's hair stand on end was that the trajectory of the gnome leader's aircraft had clearly changed after being hit by Ming Du, but it did not deviate and hit Chun Xiang's distortion barrier. The distortion barrier had a prerequisite skill. Could it be that the warlock had already calculated the trajectory of the aircraft after being hit? If that was the case, then this fellow's calculation ability was simply out of this world. Apart from Yin Luyan, when did the Unity Alliance have two such godly people? The more the Berserk Thunder Emperor thought about it, the more shocked he became. The revival point was just at the entrance. At this time, the people that had been killed by Wang Yu had returned to the battle. With his staff in hand, Wang Yu was like a single man holding the pass against 10,000 enemies. He blocked all the Berserk Sky Law members outside of his control circle. Chun Xiang and Mingdu fought while controlling the gnome leader, trapping the gnome leader in a corner. After losing the aircraft, the gnome leader was completely useless in other aspects other than having 100,000 HP. It was an agile boss, and its movement speed was even slower than the two mages. The gnome leader, who was trapped in a corner by the two of them, was only able to deal with the two of them by relying on his mechanical warriors. However, under Chun Xiang's control, the slow-moving mechanical warriors were not of much use. Ming Do cast a lightning spell from the left and an arcane impact from the right, beating the gnome leader to the brink of death. While Mingdu was happily fighting, the Berserk Thunder Emperor's players saw that the last boss was about to die and became anxious. Each of them seemed to have gone mad as they charged forward with all their might. After all, there were 40 people, and the revival point was so close. With everyone charging forward without any regard for their lives, Wang Yu was unable to deal with them all. While Wang Yu was fighting the shield warrior, a few assassins appeared behind Mingdu in stealth. "Old Li, be careful," Spring Xiang shouted. He tossed out a ball of poison mist that slowed down the assassin closest to Radiant City. Hearing this, Mingdu didn't even turn his head as he swapped places with the gnome leader with a wave of his staff. At this time, the 6 assassins' backstab had already arrived, stabbing the gnome leader's body. "You despicable bastards." The gnome leader, who had already been beaten to a critical state by Mingdu, cursed unwillingly and fell to the ground. After the gnome leader died, the mech warriors also fell to the ground as if their electricity had been cut off. Mingdu laughed and said, "Haha, I couldn't tell that you guys were even more ruthless than me. You guys did it on purpose. F***CK your mother." The 6 assassins' eyes turned red when they saw the gnome leader die. They grabbed their daggers and used swift movement to charge at Mingdu. Chapter 252. Iron Rock Castle was a special stronghold setting. When Berserk Heavenly Wrath took Iron Rock Castle as their base, they were tasked with sealing these 3 bosses. If these 3 bosses were killed, they would respawn. In that case, the seal would be ineffective and Berserk Heavenly Wrath's base would likely be taken back by the system. These 3 bosses were Iron Rock Castle's weakness. If these 3 bosses were killed, they would respawn. In that case, the seal would be ineffective and Berserk Heavenly Wrath's base would likely be taken back by the system. So, these 3 bosses were Iron Rock Castle's weakness. For Wang Yu's group, to kill these 3 bosses was no different from killing them. It was no wonder that these 6 thieves would act so crazily. The gnome leader had died by their hands. If the guild was destroyed because of this, even if the 6 of them had been tricked by Mingdu, they would still be labeled as sinners for all eternity. At this moment, the 6 thieves' hatred for Mingdu couldn't be expressed in words. They could only resort to violence. Facing the charging assassins, Mingdu didn't panic. Just as the assassins were about to stab Mingdu, Chun Xiang's distortion barrier enveloped Mingdu. The 6 assassins were frozen on the spot. Mingdu's hellfire ignited on the ground at the same time. The dancing tongues of flame instantly engulfed the 6 assassins. However, at this moment, the number on the top right corner of the screen showing the number of enemy players jumped from 40 to 467. Fuck. Seeing the increase in enemy players, Chun Xiang and Mingdu jumped in fright. They immediately shouted in the chat, "Iron Ox, head for the door. Their people are coming." Chun Xiang moved the 6 demons to Wang Yu's side, blocking Berserk Heavenly Wrath's group. Under the cover of Mingdu's spells, Wang Yu took the opportunity to charge forward. Mingdu and Chun Xiang followed behind Wang Yu. They were about to reach the door. At this moment, the door to the meeting hall opened once more. A dense crowd of people blocked the main entrance of the meeting hall. Wang Yu blocked everyone's attacks with his long staff and led Mingdu and Chun Xiang to hide behind a large pillar at the entrance of the meeting hall. In front of the pillar was a flight of stairs. The three of them staggered the terrain so that the people below would not be able to rush up for a while. However, with so many people blocking the way, the three of them could only dream of moving forward. You won't be able to escape. Seeing that reinforcements had arrived, the Berserk Thunder Emperor laughed loudly. Everyone retreat. Block the entrance. Don't let them escape. Just now, when a gnome leader had died, Heavenly Punishments players had received a quest notification. As long as they killed Wang Yu's group of 3 and obtained the sealed items, their guild could still be saved. Since there was a chance to save them, Heavenly Punishment naturally had to grasp it tightly. 500 people was not a small number. Just a small portion of them had squeezed into the meeting hall. The meeting hall was only a few hundred square meters. In such a narrow space, Chuanjin's team of 3 had no chance of winning. Damn it, what do we do? It looks like we've gone too far this time. Mingdu glanced at the entrance and said with sorrow, right now, they were in a dungeon. Dying in a dungeon would not cause them to lose experience. The Berserk Thunder Emperor's resurrection point was right at the entrance. Their manpower was simply inexhaustible. Chun Xiang looked around the meeting hall and said gloomily, there's no way to break through the terrain. There's only one entrance. Iron Rock Castle was built by the gnomes. As these short fellows lacked a sense of security, the buildings they built did not even have windows. Mingdo and Chun Xiang both lowered their heads, looking extremely dispirited. They were so close to success, but they had failed at the crucial moment. Even though the two of them did not place much importance on victory or defeat, they could not help but feel a sense of regret in their hearts. Furthermore, with this lesson, the Berserk Tion FA would definitely be more cautious. They might not have such a good opportunity in the future. As for the hidden class quest, they could only be stuck here. Can you guys help me open a path? Suddenly, Wang Yu, who had been standing in front of the two of them, spoke. Open a path for what? Do you think we can run out? Who knows how many people are waiting for us outside? Mingdu said gloomily. Wang Yu said, there's no need for all 3 of us to run out. It's fine as long as one of us leaves. Wang Yu had a rich experience of being surrounded. He remembered that in Holy Light City, there were many more people surrounding Wang Yu and Yang Na than here. Oh, are you confident that you can escape from so many people? It was easier to talk to smart people. Mingdu and Chun Xiang immediately understood the meaning behind Wang Yu's words. Wang Yu thought for a moment and said, about 30%. Rather than sitting around and waiting for death, it's better to take a risk. The situation this time was different from the one in Holy City. Although there were many people last time, their hearts were scattered. A simple provocation could cause chaos. But Iron Rock Castle was the base of Berserk Heavenly Law. There were no outsiders here, and this matter concerned the fate of the guild. Everyone had to work together. Wang Yu had never faced a pursuit like this. There were 500 people here. Even if each of them attacked once, the damage would be enough to kill him. 30% is not bad. Mingdu and Chun Xiang were happy. These guys were willing to take the risk even if there was a 1% chance, let alone a 30% chance. But first, I have to leave this hall. So you are the 70% chance that I'm not confident in. F***CK. Hearing this, the two of them suddenly had the urge to kill Wang Yu. It seemed that Wang Yu was very confident in himself, but not the other two. Although this was a fact, Mingdu and Chun Xiang still felt a great deal of ridicule. Just a few hundred people. This old man doesn't care about them. Chun Xiang said proudly. That's right. Look at how Boss Li will open a path for you. Don't worry, young man. As the two of them boasted about themselves, they passed the mission items in their hands to Wang Yu. Wang Yu scratched his head when he saw the two of them like this. If you can't do it, don't force yourself. We can still ask Wuji for help. Get lost. I'm invincible. Do I need that trash's help? The two of them were furious. Being looked down on by Wang Yu was a small matter. If Wuji found out about this, with his mocking style, he would laugh at them for the rest of their lives. Since that's the case, listen to my command. I'll count to 3 and we'll charge out together. At the same time, Thunder God asked Thunder Emperor, Emperor, what's the situation inside? Thunder Emperor replied, the situation is under control. The 3 of them are blocked behind the pillars. It's only a matter of time before they are taken down. Oh, is that so? It seems that Nian Luoyun is only SOSO. Thunder God was in a good mood when he heard that the situation was under control. He was even in the mood to brag. Hundreds of people had surrounded 3 people, and they were covered in dirt. They couldn't even take them down immediately. He still had the face to say that he was only SOSO. His face was probably as thick as Wuji's. When Thunder Emperor heard Thunder God's words, he fiercely curled his lips. Nian Luoyun was only SOSO. Damn it, this bastard was almost able to take on 100 people by himself. If it wasn't for the timely arrival of reinforcements, even 100 people might not be able to stop them. Chapter 253. Recommended reading. 3. The Berserk Thunder Emperor was still looking down on the Berserk Thunder God when he suddenly heard a shout. Then, he saw Mingdu and Chun Xiang rush out from behind the pillar. The Berserk Thunder Emperor hurriedly shouted, "They're out! Attack them!" Receiving the order, the Berserk Thunder Emperor aimed at the 2 and started throwing skills. Icicles, lightning, and fireballs. Arrows filled the sky and smashed toward the 2. Chun Xiang summoned a demon to block in front of him, blocking the arrows and magic. At this time, there were at least 200 people guarding the door. Chun Xiang's demon could not even block for 2 seconds before it was hit into light. In this 1 second, Chun Xiang activated distortion and fixed the person in front of him in place. Then, he activated Toxic Nova, and before dying, Chun Xiang threw a mass of miasma. Whoosh! Everyone's health dropped, and then they started to fall. In a short while, an opening appeared at the front of the team. The Berserk Thunder Emperor players were shocked. Damn, this warlock also knows AoE skills. Good thing we killed him. What's that? Just as everyone came to their senses, they suddenly saw a lightning spear flying towards them. Boom! After the sound of thunder magic, the lightning spear flew in a straight line, and Mingdu appeared in front of everyone, waving his staff. When the magic had landed, Mingdu had dodged it, and then condensed a lightning spear. When everyone was stunned, he threw it. Seeing that Mingdu wasn't dead, the Berserk Thunder Emperor panicked and shouted, "Quickly block the opening! Don't let him escape!" Ranged players continued to attack. The Berserk Thunder Emperor quickly gathered their formation and blocked the entrance. At the same time, the ranged players launched a second round of attacks. Mingdu ran a few steps forward, pointed his staff, and appeared in the middle of the Berserk Thunder Emperor's team. When everyone saw the white light of death, they thought that Mingdu had been killed. Just as they were about to breathe a sigh of relief, someone suddenly said, That's not right. Why are there so many enemy players?" "Because I didn't die." Ha ha ha. Mingdu laughed as he tossed out hellfire. Nearly 200 players were blocking the entrance. There was a large number of players at the entrance. These players were well equipped for all classes. One hell flame wasn't enough to burn all of them. So, after Mingdu used hell flame, he immediately used Sky Rocket Strike. Sky Rocket Strike's damage was higher than hell flames, but it was a skill that consumed mana over time. Normally, Mingdu needed to control his mana, so he wasn't willing to use this skill too recklessly. However, at this moment, Mingdu had already made up his mind to die, so he wasn't worried about mana consumption at all. Fire arrows rained down like rain. In the blink of an eye, the entrance of the meeting hall was cleared of a large area of emptiness. At the same time, a Wang Yu jumped out from behind a pillar and headed straight for the door of the meeting hall. Mingdu and Chun Xiang's suicidal attack had taken away nearly 60 players. At this moment, apart from the players who were standing relatively far away, only a few tankers, including the Berserker Thunder Emperor, remained at the entrance of the meeting hall. "Block him!" the Berserker Thunder Emperor shouted. He took the lead and raised his large shield to smash at Wang Yu. Wang Yu used his long staff to leap above the Berserker Thunder Emperor's head. At this moment, the other shield bearers beside him also raised their shields and smashed over. These shield bearers formed a circle, completely sealing off Wang Yu's landing point. Wang Yu extended both his arms in midair and used a knee strike to grab onto the Berserker Thunder Emperor's head. At the same time, he landed with eagle stamp and threw the Berserker Thunder Emperor with all his might. The Berserker Thunder Emperor's body was quite large, and he directly smashed the other shield bearers to the ground. After repelling the crowd, Wang Yu rushed out of the meeting hall without looking back. Outside the meeting hall, the Berserker Thunder Emperor originally thought that nothing would go wrong. Who knew that the three of them would fight like cornered beasts? Seeing his guild's players appear at the resurrection point, the Berserker Thunder Emperor immediately ordered everyone outside to block the meeting hall's door. As soon as Wang Yu rushed out of the meeting hall, he saw a row of shields smashing towards him. The meeting hall's door was arched, and at the very top was a stone platform. Just as the shields were about to smash into him, Wang Yu leaped up and stepped on the door frame. At the same time, he extended his arms and hooked onto the stone platform directly above the meeting hall's door. He bent his arms and flipped upside down, just in time to avoid the shield strike. Seeing that Wang Yu had jumped onto the stone platform, the members of the Berserker Thunder Emperor threw arrows and spells at Wang Yu. The majority of the Berserker Thunder Emperor's members were ranged classes. There was no way that Wang Yu could dodge the attacks of several hundred people. He could only brace himself and take the damage. The spells and arrows landed on Wang Yu's body. Wang Yu's chi barrier was instantly shattered. The 2 seconds of invulnerability were just enough to withstand the wave of damage. Let's see where you can run to. Everyone continue. The platform above the meeting hall was only a few square meters. In the eyes of the Berserker Thunder Emperor, Wang Yu jumping onto the platform was no different from seeking death. The Berserker Thunder Emperor roared and ordered everyone to launch a second wave of attacks. Wang Yu turned his head and looked at the crowd with a smile. He then jumped onto the wall and ran toward the exit by stepping on the wall. What the hell? The members of Berserker Thunder Emperor, including the Berserker Thunder Emperor, were all stunned when they saw this scene. Berserker Thunder Emperor was the #1 guild in Server 2. Those who could participate in this encirclement were all experts. They prided themselves on being experienced and knowledgeable. However, they had never heard of a skill called wall vaulting. Most of the people present were either mages or warriors with short legs. Even if there were archers who wanted to chase after Wang Yu, they immediately gave up on the thought of chasing after her after seeing her figure flicker and flash 5 meters forward. Damn, a pugilist could even teleport? This guy was simply inhuman. This doesn't make sense. Watching Wang Yu's disappearing figure, the Berserker Thunder Emperor was in a daze. He did not even realize that the staff in his hand had fallen to the ground. What happened? Where is he? At this moment, the Berserker Thunder Emperor ran out of the meeting hall. Seeing that Wang Yu had disappeared from the entrance, he hurriedly asked about the situation. He ran away. The Berserker Thunder Emperor's expression was wooden. Even he could not believe what had happened. Ran away? Don't talk nonsense. How could you let a few hundred people escape? The Berserker Thunder Emperor asked incredulously. Without a mage's suicidal bombardment, and with a few hundred people surrounding him tightly, the Berserker Thunder Emperor thought that the Berserker Thunder Emperor was joking with him. The Berserker Thunder Emperor pointed at the wall diagonally above him and said, "He ran over there. Stop teasing me. Do you think he can fly?" The Berserker Thunder Emperor laughed. He was even more certain that the Berserker Thunder Emperor was joking with him. He can't fly, but he's close. The Berserker Thunder Emperor's expression was incomparably dejected. He used his index finger to draw an arc at the wall and said he ran like that. Stop messing around. Before the Berserker Thunder Emperor could finish his sentence, a system message stunned him. Guild encampment seal removed. Encampment defense failed. Guild level 1, current level 2. Guild member limit, 400. Guild reputation value, guild capital PS. You don't have to send razor blades, but you can send delicious food. Chapter 254. Reeks crap. Heavenly Punishment's members were in an uproar when they saw this message. 1,000 gold coins wasn't a big deal to the Berserk Sky Wrath members. 2 gold coins per person was more than enough. 1,000 reputation could be made up quickly by completing quests. However, for a well-known guild, losing 1 guild level was not just a material loss. In the game, a guild's level was equivalent to a guild's life. In the game, guilds were all level 3 when they were first established. Every time a guild's base was destroyed, the guild's level would decrease by 1. When the guild's level reached 0, the guild would be permanently canceled. If a guild wanted to raise its level, aside from saving a lot of money, it also had to pay a lot of money to accept a difficult guild quest from the City Lord's mansion. If the guild quest failed, not only would the money and reputation go down the drain, but the guild would also lose EXP. Once the guild's EXP returned to 0, the guild would lose another level. Because of this, even though the current guild level limit was level 5 and the maximum number of players was 2,000, no major guild dared to challenge the guild quest. Instead, they created subsidiary guilds and waited until their levels were higher and their equipment was better before challenging the guild quest. Now, Heavenly Punishment had lost a level before they could even complete the guild quest. They were forcefully kicked out of 100 players for no reason. This enraged everyone in Heavenly Punishment. Unity Alliance, I will never forgive you. Isn't it just Memory Cloud? I don't believe we can't kill him with so many of us. Players played the game for the sake of revenge. In real life, they were already frustrated. If they had to swallow their anger when they were bullied in the game, it would be pointless, especially when they were made a fool of by a guild that was far inferior to them. Everyone's eyes were spitting fire. Thunder God, what should we do? The Berserk Thunder Emperor was still relatively calm. This was because he had personally witnessed how difficult it was to deal with Nian Luyun and his companions. With such a person present, it was hard to say who would emerge victorious between the Berserk Heavenly Punishment and the Unity Alliance. What should we do? Annihilate those idiots from Unity Alliance. Thunder God immediately issued an order in the guild channel. Everyone continue to gather. Thunder Emperor, lead 200 players to defend the base. Everyone else, return to the city with me. I will fight Unity Alliance to the death. Fight to the death. Hearing the Berserk Thunder God's words, the blood of the Berserk Heavenly Wrath group was completely ignited. Under the command of Thunder God Berserk, everyone quickly assembled and teleported to Thunderstorm City. After exiting the Iron Rock Castle Instance Dungeon, Wang Yu and the others returned to their original forms. As Mingdu and Chun Xiang were killed early in the morning, they returned to the city first and found a place to wait for Wang Yu. When Wang Yu jogged all the way back to Thunderstorm City, he felt the restless, murderous aura of the Thunderstorm City players. At the entrance, just as Wang Yu was about to enter the city, 2 Berserk Wrath players blocked his way. They pointed at the person in front of Wang Yu and shouted, "Hey, take out your guild badge or mercenary group badge." The Berserk Heavenly Punishment's players had occupied the city gates immediately. At this moment, they were inspecting the players entering and exiting the city. The player looked at the people on both sides of the door and whispered, "I'm an unspecialized." The unspecialized Berserk Heavenly Punishment's player glanced at the person and said, "Either don't enter the city or die and return to the respawn point. Your choice." Because Rebirth was a holographic game, it was much more difficult to operate than a keyboard and mouse online game. Moreover, there were no requirements for forming a guild, so most players had their own mercenary groups or guilds. Unspecialized players were extremely rare. Those who claimed to be unspecialized might be members of the Unity Alliance. It seemed that the vengeance of the guild had made the Berserk Heavenly Punishment's eyes red. They would rather kill than be wrong. The major guilds had always been overbearing. How would the unspecialized players dare to resist? The player could only sigh and turn back. When it was Wang Yu's turn, Wang Yu had the quest item in hand. In order not to cause trouble, he took out his guild badge. When the 2 Berserk Heavenly Punishment players saw Wang Yu's Yin-Yang Fish badge, they said in surprise, "Hey, this badge is interesting. It's quite unique. Why haven't I seen it before?" Wang Yu said, Our guild is small, only a dozen or so people. TSK, TSK. Interesting. You can go. The two sighed in admiration and made way for Wang Yu. When they arrived at the appointed place, Chun Xiang and Mingdu were sitting in a tavern and drinking. Wang Yu walked over and whispered, "You two are quite bold. Berserk Heavenly Punishment is the talk of the town, and they're looking for us. You two are still swaggering around like nothing happened." Mingdu said disdainfully, "TSK, aren't you swaggering around too?" Wang Yu said indifferently, "They can't catch me. What am I worried about?" Mingdu was speechless. Wang Yu's words sometimes hurt people unintentionally. Chun Xiang passed a glass of wine to Wang Yu and said with a smile, "In the dungeon, we were all in disguise. They can't recognize us." "Oh, right." Wang Yu suddenly remembered that the three of them had turned into NPCs. "Where's the stuff?" "It's here." Wang Yu took out 2 notes and gave them to the two. After receiving the notes, Chun Xiang said, "We've got the stuff. Let's go. There's something wrong here. Let's turn in the quest as soon as possible." Okay. Wang Yu and Mingdu nodded. Just as they were about to leave the tavern, a group of people suddenly walked in. The leader was Berserk Thunder God. Behind him were Berserk Thunderheart and a dozen or so players. These players were covered in a layer of blue light. It seemed that they were all elite experts who had a full set of silver equipment. Wang Yu and the other two were at the entrance. At this moment, they could clearly see a group of people blocking the entrance of the tavern. In the channel, Mingdu was shocked. "Damn, Chungo, didn't you say you couldn't recognize us? Why are they here?" Chun Xiang was also secretly puzzled. "That can't be. There shouldn't be anyone in the city who knows us. Also, we didn't leave any traces. How do we get targeted?" Wang Yu said, "Who cares? There are fewer people this time. Later, you two will lead the way. I'll lead you guys out." Okay. The three of them quickly discussed a strategy in the channel. Wang Yu watched Berserk Thunder God closely. Seeing Berserk Thunder God approaching step by step, Mingdu and Chun Xiang finished casting their spells. "Damn you," thought Flowing Cloud. "You still dare to drink here?" Just as the three of them were about to attack, a sudden shout came from behind Berserk Thunder God. Mingdu and Chun Xiang were so shocked that they almost threw their spells on their own faces. Thought Flowing Cloud. Wang Yu and the other two looked at Berserk Thunder God. As expected, Berserk Thunder God's eyes were not on them. Instead, he was staring at the Grandmaster of Combat in the corner. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.